Right, we're in. We're in.
It's not like I've.
Gonna signpost any future girlfriends or children or anything to this
I
video.
mean, it's not like I have nudes all over the internet, so that's fine. So, gotta help the person that saw that and they'd be blinded for life.
I've lost my bloody drink.
Your bloody drink.
Was it your Califia mocha? Yeah. That's downstairs, and I just put it in the fridge because you left it out.
Tut tut.
Yeah, that's the problem. Rob just leaves rubbish everywhere.
Good.
Here he is. It's in the fridge, my love. It's in the fridge. Can you do the front door as well, Rob? Thank you. Oh, fuck off.
Oh, that's a bit mean to say to Rob.
No, it wasn't to Rob, it was the bag of sugar that fell.
No, don't talk about Rob like that. What's up?
Hey, Ben, what's up?
What's up? In good kind of just update news. Since even though it's been maybe a bit too fast, since I found out about the whole kind of pre-diabetes thing, I've lost from December at some point. I've lost like 6 kilos since November.
Oh, that's a lot.
Oh, wow, that's pretty impressive.
I mean, I'd say, like, well done, but did you need to lose it?
They said I needed to lose a little bit, like when I went on a program, but I wasn't focused on losing. But at the same time, before I came on a program, I did want to lose a little bit. I wasn't focused on that because I was more focused on I want to get back active again before I was really sick. Active as I was, and then I actually want to start regularly working out, just lightly to help different things.
Oh, that's fair.
Enough.
I think cutting out, to be honest, I think it was mostly cutting out all the sugar.
Yeah, it's amazing.
In terms of snacking.
That was really good, though. Well done.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's all you needed to do.
Yeah, because like especially with the holidays and stuff, like the amount of like sugary stuff, or just like for food stuff in general is quite a lot anyway. So you lost 6 kgs. That's a feat. That's a very impressive feat.
Okay.
Yeah, well done.
Yes.
Hopefully everyone has a prosperous and healthy 2025.
Well said.
Prosperous, I hope so. Healthy? No, I mean, I've still got chocolate from like ages.
So have I. I've been like, oh, I want to finish all the chocolate, and then I'm gonna cut it all out.
You know, it is weird talking about like the candy industry because I still have a Terry's mint chocolate, right?
Oh, mint one.
Yes. Because they came in like a.
Yeah, I don't know if
is it orange and mint, or is it just mint?
No, it's just mint.
Oh, okay.
But it's orange shaped. But the problem is,
it's a lime.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but the problem is, I went to Tesco's, and I just was browsing, and I was like, what's that on the top shelf? Terry's Easter chocolate orange. Wait, what? And it's like, yeah, they already brought out there's Easter chocolates already, and it's just like, I still got the Christmas stuff, so I don't even know what what time of the day it is.
We saw
No.
that on New Year's Eve that all the Easter eggs are out.
Yeah,
That's
in
mental.
Mexico, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, to be fair, if they do that, you might as well just have like Christmas and Easter stuff all year round. If that was the case, I'd be like, fair enough. Chocolate eggs all year round. There's nothing bad about that.
That's
It's,
very
I mean,
political, Ben.
like, to be honest, I'd rather have. There used to be something called Terry's chocolate apples and Terry's
Really?
chocolate lemons.
Oh.
That sounds dreadful.
I don't
Well,
know. I can't.
As they are. As
Say
they
again?
sound. Well, they flavoured like lemons and apples, you know.
I mean, they were
They just,
flavored
like,
and
the shape
shaped,
of-
both.
Oh.
So I'm like, apple one, I was like, I could give that a miss. But the chocolate lemon one, I hear it's like, because there was like, I don't know, it was like a limited edition one where it's like they're celebrating their like 30th anniversary, and it came out for 1 year. It's like white chocolate, but it's shaped like an orange. Shaped like a lemon flavor. I was like, I kind of want to try that. I saw like the original like advert for it. I was like, I didn't even know that this existed, but now I do know it exists. I kind of want to eat it. It's kind of like, what does nostalgia taste like? I guess I just kind of like, yeah, I kind of want to taste nostalgia.
Yeah.
Okay, so wait. I guess we should ask Camilla if Camilla's doing it on her like phone, or is she doing it on his?
Doing it on mine. I'm just setting it up so we can use one phone instead
Okay,
of two.
yeah, okay. Fair enough.
I didn't wait. I just woke up not too long ago. Fell asleep. Anyway.
Good morning.
Thanks. But yeah, just one moment. Almost set up.
That's alright, dude. So let's ask how everyone else's Christmas was then, or how everyone's like New Year's was. Did you have a lot of people with fireworks around your area, or did you just have like a decent amount?
It's quite nice actually, because the house opposite always does like, I say always, we've only been here 2 years, but it's the two times that we've seen New Year here, the house opposite has done quite a nice little fireworks display in their garden, and because it's in their garden, it's basically our fireworks display as well.
Nice. That's nice. So it's like you got to see a lot of like, you see a decent amount. It's better than I heard like the show in London was actually quite pants, and everyone was like, oh, kind of want my money back because it was so fucking cold. It's like, it wasn't worth going out.
Did you hear about the one in Birmingham?
No, what's happened?
So loads of people showed up for the fireworks display, and then it got called off because of the weather, but they didn't tell anyone. So it got to,
Oh, fuck no.
It got to midnight, and everyone's cheering, expecting fireworks, and just nothing happened.
Terrible. Oh, I mean, at least. Oh wait, no. I was about to say if it was a storm. No, it was a storm. You said, right? I was about to say, couldn't they have done it with the drones instead, like they did it like 1 year in, where they did it for last year? I think it was.
That would have been
I was like,
pretty trippy if it was just like loads of like drone artwork blowing across the sky.
I mean, that is how last year started for London, right? It was actually a Rick Astley thing, right? They literally did never gonna give you up on BBC.
Yeah,
I feel it was such a trippy year. It was a trippy start of the year, and the whole year has been a bit. Well, it's been a bit odd for me at least. So it's just like now, hopefully, it'll be better, and we can get this all sorted out. Yeah. But until that time, we'll sure talk about this lovely movie, and if... Nope, I guess we're still waiting.
Oh, Pat, did you tell your story?
No, he didn't.
Nah.
Oh. Have you chosen not to? It's alright if you've chosen
No,
not to.
I was waiting for you to get set up.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I've been recording for a while.
What story?
Well, okay. So, got home from Rob's after New Year's.
Oh, this story, don't we?
Yeah. I worked the next day, so I was like, well, I got a bit more sleep than I intended to, so I was like, I'll stay up till 10. Sitting there playing tech and trying to get through the trophies. I was quite close to the platinum at this point. And I was like, I'll play a couple more matches and then I'll go to bed. And then it got to about 10 to 10. I farted. And I was like, oh, that don't feel right. And I set up, looked behind, and it was just a mess. Basically, something that generally happens either if you've got fucking bowel problems that happens regularly, or you're old, where you fart and you basically explode in your boxers. So it went through my boxers, through my shorts, and through my sheet. Thankfully, didn't go onto the actual actual mattress. So I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to go and clean myself up. I had to get everything off, put it down in the into the washing machine, and then clean myself up. So then instead of going to bed at 10, it was closer to 11. So then basically the next day was hell, because I went to do an 11-hour shift on 5 hours sleep.
Okay.
I mean, it's not that
okay.
story. Rob's just dying.
Yeah, Rob's screeching and like Rob is nearly like falling on the floor. All I'm thinking is, was it like so bad that it was like if I was to get a ketchup bottle and smash it down, when it just spray everywhere on the side of the wall?
It was concentrated in a small area, so it wasn't like a big mess. It was just like...
Sorry, that makes it way funnier and way worse somehow. Okay, sorry. This is...
If we were live streaming right now, we'd have lost every single watcher.
Or we're getting more because people find this story so funny.
You told it in such a matter-of-fact way.
You do realise you need to repeat this for poor John. He needs to...
It's just like the third time I told this story already. And I've got the same reaction each time. People funny. I mean,
Emmanuel is not coming back. Mitchell's not coming back. Rory's not coming back. And Adek is not coming back. So well done, Pat.
It's not like it's happened to me, but it's the first time it's done that much damage.
Really, the first time?
I remember the first time because I was lying on the couch watching cricket. But this was during the day, so it was fine because it wasn't affecting my sleep or anything. But the worst part of the story is the fact that I couldn't get to sleep at the time I wanted to, and the next day, like, I felt pretty ill because I was so tired. To the point, right? Which is what's so silly about fucking companies. Is I got called into the office for them talking about my toilet breaks. I was like, I'm not really feeling that great today. Like, you're lucky that I'm in work at all.
Fucking it. What, they pulled you in because you was in the toilet for too long?
Yes. What I tend to do is I split my day up into 3 sessions. So the morning before breakfast, then you've got the middle bit before lunch, and then the last bit before I go home.
Bowel movements.
I usually try to go to the toilet once each, so I'm not actually taking the piss. We're there for like 11 hours, so
that might be the problem if you're not actually taking a piss.
Because I was feeling unwell, I was in there a little bit longer each day. Now I can tell you for a fact, there's so many people there that are gone for like 45 minutes at a time. So I'm sat down like, you know, I'm just gonna be chill. I'm not gonna kick off, but I'm like, if they're not pulling in other people about it, there's something wrong here.
Well, I mean, like, in all seriousness, if you go, would you prefer me to have a smoke break and just say I'm having a smoke break and go to the toilet instead? Because, like, either way, it's the same.
It's the same amount of time lost, isn't it?
The best bit about this is he asked me, did I have a medical condition? I was like, yeah, I'm diabetic. I'm on metformin. He's fucking pulled his horns in straight away.
Okay. No, I mean, I
His-
guess
His wife is diabetic, so he knows exactly what the medication does. So basically, it doesn't matter what, but if there's anything with any sugar in, once it comes in and goes through my body, it will then push it out as like as both. Like a lot of the time, I just pee, but sometimes, if it need be, I'm sitting on the throne.
fair enough. I mean, I guess, like as like a boss or like a management type, you just gotta ask. So it's definitely like, I mean, he has to ask, be like, not to be personal, but like, you know, he just needs to do the follow-up paperwork. But as long as he knows, and he goes, oh, gotcha, that's it. Yeah, okay, yeah. It goes, reason completely valid. Leave him alone. Okay, that's it. That's it. Yeah, that's fine.
But
yeah, that's fine.
I got jumped so much that I went through yesterday without going at all, unless I was on my break, and I wasn't talking to anyone. Like, I was basically working angry, and I was pissed off with everyone in there for like a full day.
Sorry you went through that. That's horrible.
Yeah, but I'm better today. I had the day off. I'm over me me moment. But yeah, that's all there is to it. Now we can get to more important.
Sorry, whose phone keeps coming through the mic? Is it yours, Rob?
I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be yours, Rob, because your one is.
Yeah, your screen is highlighting green when the sound is coming through. Yeah, iPhones are pretty bad at this.
What's the mic? Is it both this computer mic and your built-in mic? Or sorry, your external mic?
Is that any better?
Not yet.
It kind of sounds like a mosquitoes in the room.
What about that?
Oh no, you're a bit quieter, but it's better now.
Is that better?
It is better for interference, but I can barely hear you.
Oh yeah, it's yeah, it's better now. It's fine.
Alright, sweet.
So, all right. So, shall we start?
Yeah, man.
Okay. So, Camilla, why did you choose this very flamboyant film?
This is one of my favorite films. Years and years ago, my brother had just, in the days of when like everybody would like rip CDs and then just have like loads of songs on the hard drive. And my brother, I think he got the soundtrack from a friend of his. Yeah, my brother Jose, if you guys remember him from my wedding, the shorter one. And I liked the soundtrack, and then I never watched the film. And then when I was in uni, I had a phase of being like obsessed with Guy Pearce, and I watched loads of things he was in. So then I watched this film, and it's just been one of my favorites ever since. And I thought it'd be a fun one to hear you guys take on it, see if you guys liked it, but also to like watch it with a bit of a critical lens, and not just from the point of view of, oh my gosh, the costumes are fun and the one-liners are funny and like this is this crazy story, but kind of from a bit more critical point of view, kind of look at, does the story actually make sense? And Emmanuel was saying like it's really fantastical, and I never thought about it that way. But yeah, mainly I just wanted to, anytime I pick anything, it's basically just because I want to hear you guys' opinion on it, because I like it, and I'm really, really glad that everyone else seems to have enjoyed it. And yeah, I think it's a joyful start to the year. It's fun. The soundtrack's great. Hope everyone's got some choreography and costume ideas for the various parties and events that you guys might go to this year. So yeah, that's why I picked the film.
Nice. I think it's a great pick, man. Because it's I think I watched it like maybe about 10 years ago. Maybe it was just like on Netflix or something, and I must have just put it on and like not paid much attention to it. Because this time I really loved it. I think the sort of turning point in it for me was when they met the native Australians, and it was just like that really nice scene. Like everything after that was just really sort of, it was just kind of like growing and growing and growing in terms of like a feeling of just like joy. And I really thought a lot of sort of, you know, how they're interacting with the world and how the world's interacting with them. I liked how they treated Bob as a character as well, because it could have been quite easy to sort of like, I don't know, make him like a bit of a cartoon if he was like too perfect in the way that he treated them. So I like that he had that little flaw when he was sort of with his group of friends, and then I forget the drag queen's name now, but when Guy Pearce showed up and he kind of like pretends not to know him, and then he kind of like redeems himself after by sort of, you know, like going against his friends. So yeah, I liked him as a character. I liked the way that they sort of like navigated the world. Like they were never sort of like, shit things happened to them, but they were never kind of like defined by the shit things happening to them. Yeah, I thought it all just came together really nice. Like towards the end when you meet Mitzi's son and all of that stuff, where he's like doing the lighting for the ABBA show, and I thought that was a really nice touch. But one of my favourite, not favourite aspects, something that I thought a lot of, was actually the credits. Because when I was listening to the song that they used for the credits, I was thinking like, oh, this must be the person that it's actually based on, and it turned out it was. So like the drag queen that the story is based on is the one who's lip syncing in the credits. And then I also noticed as well that Mitzi and Guy Pearce's character, they're both credited as their drag name and their sort of like male name, but Bernadette's only credited as Bernadette. I thought that was a really nice touch as well. Yeah, lots of really nice aspects to it, and I think what you said last week about starting the year with a bit of joy was perfect.
Oh wait, Rob, your mic's come back with vengeance with the buzzing.
Oh, I'll mute.
Yeah, sorry about that, dude. But I guess I'll quickly cut in. This is the first time I've watched this film. It is quite. Did Emmanuel say? Did you say Emmanuel said fantastical? I'm not quite sure. Fantastical is right. The word I would use. I do say it's very hope-filled and cheerful and stuff because of like the nature of, I guess, drag queens. It did have its like happy, flamboyant side, but it did show like sort of like. I wouldn't say down to earth. That's not the right word I want to say. It's more the more unfortunately realistic side that sometimes people, the very more darker real side of like, oh yeah, people are shit. So that's like, you know, that's the best way that Six Eight goes. Oh yeah, most people are nice. Some people are just, you know, they're shit. And it's like, oh, you saw that side as well. There are like, I had like a couple of like bits of bobs that I kind of could have nitpicked like here and there, but generally speaking, it's quite a fun film. There's certain bits that I go, I don't know if that makes sense, but like generally speaking, no, some of it is generally okay because it's like, yes, because they're flamboyantly. Annoyingly bitchy to each other. That's exactly what they would do to each other. I was like, right, yeah, that's it, yeah. So it's just like different mindset for what sort of film this is. Generally speaking, quite good. Little bits and bobs that are like, we'll see. But like generally speaking, it's an enjoyable film. It's a very lighter film for the start of this year, and we hopefully can stay generally good and happy and light films. Oh, I say that until I choose a film of mine, or Emmanuel choose a film. But we'll keep that in mind for now. So yeah, generally speaking, yes, it's a good pick. It's a quite enjoyable film. I am now sad to say, never did see the stage show as well. I kind of want to see the stage show as well, just to go. I see what they've done different, and see what it is. Yeah, so that's the general consensus. It's a pretty decent film. It's a pretty good film. Yeah.
Since no one else is talking, I may as well.
Sorry, I missed all of that. What was the just the last part you said? I think the last thing you said is a joyful start to the.
Yeah, it's just that because when I was younger, I did see that really big silver shoe near the Soho. So it's kind of like I did miss watching the musical. So it's kind of like if it ever comes back, I might try and watch it as like the musical stage show, just to see how it is, see if it's similar to the movie. And now that.
Yeah, same. I really want to see the musical. I don't know why when it was like in theatres, I didn't see it. I don't know if it's still about, but if it is, I'm going to try and see it before we leave London because, yeah, be interesting to see it as a proper musical, not as a movie with some song performances. But yeah.
So, I left their call last week before the film was announced, so I didn't see what it was until I woke up on the Sunday, and I was like, okay, let's have a look, see what this is, and I was like, oh, Priscilla, I've not heard of this one before, so I looked into it, and I was like, oh, this cast is pretty good actually, so I sort of tried to go in a bit blind. And then Rob mentioned it when we were at his for New Year's. I said I was going to watch it on the train on the way back, and he was like, "I'll just make sure no one's watching over your shoulder because it's about some drag queens." I was like, "It doesn't really bother me." And then I sat down and watched it, and I was like, "This film is incredible." Like, I wouldn't say like it's the most amazingly written thing I've ever watched, but it was so entertaining. Like, but it was also really progressive for its time. Like, which is really impressive. But for me, I've always been a fairly big fan of Guy Pearce as well, and he really lent into this role. Like, if nobody had told me that he was just a straight actor, I would have said, you know what, this guy, this is his life, because he played it as if it was his life, and like I thought that all the cast did really well. Like it was a nice story, but it was so funny. I'd probably say it's one of the funniest films we've had in Film Club so far. And it's now sort of made me want to go back and watch another one about cross-dressers or drag queens. That what's his name? The bloke that was in Ghost.
Emmanuel said Edward, but I don't think that's the one you mean.
Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Swayze. So thanks for everything, Ruby Wong. I think Ruby Wong.
Yeah, I think
that's it. What's really funny about that film is that the story is very, very similar to that of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. That when it came out, people thought that it was like a rip-off of it, but they were in production. Their productions kind of overlapped. But yeah, I was literally just thinking, now I really want to see that because I'd be really intrigued to see the similarities.
Definitely. But like, there was things I was reading about it afterwards. Like, it's like, is this a sequel? Because like people are like talking about the first film, and I'm like, not seen it anywhere.
I don't know of the first film.
Yeah, I think just people might be comparing it to other similar films. I don't know. You know, it's like online. People
There's
make no
a,
sense. I'm one of them.
There's a documentary about the people that it's based on. So I don't know if they're referencing that.
Maybe. But like the fact that they'd go into towns and they'd be like had things thrown at them for them to get off the stage. You know, it's things that people are dealing with even now. So them going over those sort of issues. When did this come out? In the 90s? Like I was very surprised with the themes used, considering it's very relevant to the current day.
You could talk about the studio that was made by Dragorama.
I don't know about the studio.
We can hear you, Emmanuel.
They can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah.
I don't know all the details. I was asking Camilla to look it up. The studio, I think it's called Dragorama. Like, he's responsible for making it like in Sydney. So a lot of the people behind it, like really cared about this subject and wanted to get awareness out about it. I think.
Interesting. Maybe I interpreted it completely wrong, but when I saw that come up on the credits, I thought it meant and said in the credits right at the end that the film was shot on location in Sydney, Australia, filmed entirely in Dragorama, as a kind of pun of the old Cinerama.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
That's what I thought it was, and I thought that was such a good kind of pun and reference to the old format. And I was like, yeah, Dragorama, what a brilliant name for like whatever it is. Also, on that note, before I move on to anything, did anyone see the post-credit scene?
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't make sense for me. I read why do they land in Tibet, and I was like, wait, Tibet is so fucking far away. Yeah, that makes.
That's how far that kite was going. That's amazing. It's like it managed to like get in the updraft and travel for thousands of miles and land in Tibet of all places. I think that's the stupidness of it. Is just that it went so far, and
I mean, that explains why. Like when I went to Australia, they said, please don't release balloons into the air because it damages wildlife because it pops. You know, because if that kite could fly to Tibet, all our balloons that are released into the air will probably hit the coral reef. It's just gonna be like, oh, that's just terrible. It's like, oh yeah, that does make sense. It's just like the monk at Tibet. It's just like so confusing for me. I was like, why is he like? I thought. Actually, no. We'll go back into that before because like I have a question about
just before
a lot of stuff.
Just before we move on from what Pat was saying though. The one scene that I said to be careful of on the train was when Bob's wife is performing.
That makes sense.
That's actually who.
Yeah, I sort of got that at the time, but like I've seen scenes like that in a lot of films. Like I think when I was
he was going to say on a lot of trains.
Therefore,
I generally don't think it. I paid too much attention to what was around me because I've seen like quite a few comedies that sort of have a scene like that. So it's like, well, whatever.
Also, sorry. Thanks, Ben. That makes sense what you said. Also, to add to what Simon said about the location, it is really funny. I found it funny that it's just again random kind of fantastical kind of things, slightly. In real life, it was filmed in the Chinese Garden of Friendship, I think, within Sydney.
Oh.
Which was also which I don't know how, but it doubled as a temple in Wolverine 2013.
Oh, really?
So yeah, you see,
Interesting.
Yeah, when it's Chinese architecture, so I don't know how the Japanese felt about that. They were
Yeah,
probably
that was a bit
confused.
like, yeah, that's just like, oh, that's close enough. Maybe they should have tried harder there. um, yeah, I'll quickly say my part. I think I was in a similar boat as Pat. I hadn't seen this film before. I've heard of it in terms of like the name only, probably, and its cultural significance. And I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And it kind of like, it's interesting that it has like the start of the film is very kind of like, what am I watching here? It's very mundane and depressing, but it kind of all sets the tone it doesn't set the tone. It sets the vibe and kind of like puts all the pieces in on the chessboard. You might say everything's put in place, and everything once they get on the road, that's when the story kind of truly starts. And it did take me a while to kind of get into it and kind of understand what they're going for, but I kind of appreciated it as it went on. And I think if it was just about them having fun on the road as drag queens, etc., it would have been still good. It'd been funny, but it wouldn't have the depth as it when it touched on to kind of like the real dark moments as it showcased in this movie, where they have to deal with the bigotry and the xenophobia and all this horrible stuff of like real people just crossing their paths. That added an extra layer of poignancy to it. But for what was important, they added the extra layer of like the good people and the nice people they meet, like the Bob character and people like him. I feel that was just as important to show the negative sides of it all, and how the three of them, all of them being very different, all have their own quirks, their own kind of like flaws and points that make them who they are. Those little scenes where they showed the flashbacks were really, really clever. And they're just kind of like very, very minimal, like a minute long each, where you just have a little taste of who they were as children, that kind of shaped who they are as adults. It was very, very well written into the script, and I thought it was good how the story progressed in a very kind of like non-subtle kind of, how's the best way to put it? It's very kind of, there isn't much of a fanfare of the ending. It's kind of like, yeah, this is just life going on. And I really liked how Hugo Weaving's character, despite him being presented to be a father of a son he didn't quite know, it wasn't like very like in some films it would do the service to the characters, whether the wife would be, or the ex-partner I should say, would be very aggressive and very negative to the whole situation. But the fact that she's still quite supportive, his son is still so open and kind of like very positive to the whole drug experience, is quite refreshing. And it just shows you how like the young generation isn't kind of warped or taken over or anything, kind of, there isn't like a bias towards it all. And it was important to show you that, yeah, if you brought up a child right, to be able to experience all types of gender and all kinds of like beliefs and opinions and all that sort of stuff. If you bring them up to kind of appreciate all that, then there will be a wonderful kind of like human being that kind of understands and accepts that their father will be a drag queen. And like Hugo Weaving was so worried that he would be kind of be judged for it, but he isn't, because the kid is kind of like, he doesn't care. He just like, it's his dad. I want to know more about you. What you do is interesting, and it might be kind of unusual, but it's something he isn't like weirded out by, and that was really quite sweet. And that it ends on such a positive note, which is quite good. Like in any other film about drag queens, probably made in this day and age, might not have such a positive ending. So the more I think about it, it's like, oh yeah, that's quite really nice that all of them kind of go off on their own paths in the way that suits them. It's their choice, and they kind of do what they want to do, and they're not dictated by tragedy or some circumstance they can't control. So it was quite refreshing to see that. And like Pat says, it's very progressive for its time it came out. It's kind of very relevant now as it was back then. So that's another positive to this movie. So yeah, even if it isn't kind of like the film that I would probably adore, like Camilla would, or anything, any other film that has similar ideas, it's still something I really appreciate. And probably if I saw it again, I'd just appreciate it more. So it's one of those films that you can't judge it by what it appears. Don't judge it by what you see on the cover, which is kind of the theme, is that you just have to get to know people, and you get to know this film, and you kind of like, yeah, that's not so bad after all. I really like that message behind it. It's good.
Nice.
I don't mind going going next. I've not seen it before. I've heard a lot about it, but hadn't seen it, so it was really nice to finally be able to watch it, because I probably would have forgotten that it was something that I've wanted to see. I just had a Google actually, and it's meant to be showing in Wolverhampton at some point. So if anybody's making a trip up to Wolverhampton this year, then there we go. That might be the place for, I don't know, film club on the road. Who knows? But yeah, I thought it was a really fun film. I really love drag. I'm a big fan of RuPaul's Drag Race as well. So I kind of love the creativity in terms of the costumes and routines and so on. I always really appreciate that. Always, I think I was singing along to every song. At probably quite loudly, to much of Rob's dismay. But I like that it kind of explored the fun side, but also kind of highlighted, I guess, the real world problems they were all kind of dealing with, whether it's acceptance from Mum, for Felicia, the relationship between Bernadette and the, what were they called? Nugget, what were they called? Trumpet, that was it. Their partner, and kind of the motivations between the partner perhaps being with Bernadette in a relationship as well, and obviously then the dynamic between Chick, I guess, in terms of his ex-partner and their son. So I thought it was interesting, kind of the kind of different problems, I guess, that they all were kind of dealing with, but then also the challenges that they face of kind of being part of, I guess, the LGBT plus kind of community in itself. And I'm glad that the film kind of didn't shy away from that, and I think explored it in quite a kind of like a good balance. It kind of felt like appropriate in terms of the film. Sometimes some films kind of perhaps go too far, but then some films maybe, and it's kind of then difficult to watch. But some films kind of don't then kind of make a point of some of the actual lived experiences that some communities will face. So I think it kind of, for me, was quite a kind of a good way to kind of highlight some of the challenges, some of the issues that maybe people can face. And I felt the nuances between the three of them, I don't know if they like worked really well, but it was just interesting, I guess, the idea of I guess sometimes we may be like homogenize the LGBTQ plus community in a way, and kind of assume that everyone's got kind of similar problems and or challenges, and maybe whilst they do, they're all kind of also have got their own kind of, like I said, day-to-day kind of challenges or kind of worries, but there's still that kind of support amongst them as a community. And then obviously to have Marion herself be a lesbian, I think that was kind of interesting again, to kind of see that kind of cooperation, because I think that sometimes we don't always see that depicted very well. I think that sometimes we kind of assume that, I don't know, lesbians and gays are always against each other, and it's never kind of that sense of, I don't know, like cooperation or community. So I thought it was really interesting to kind of see her kind of, I guess, acceptance of him, and her acceptance of his acceptance of her, and then obviously this child of, I want to say his name's Kevin, but I don't think his name is Kevin. What was the son's name? It wasn't Kevin, was it?
Benj. They called him Benj, so Benjamin.
Benji. Maybe, yeah, Benji, Benj. I think it was really quite, like Ben said, kind of quite special to see actually kind of how accepting he was of kind of who his dad is. And I think obviously partly in terms of the way that Marion had kind of raised him, but also I think just that kind of like openness and kind of accepting that kids have, or kids can give. And I think that was really nice to see. And I was thinking of you know, like they say in America, they're always talking about how like drag is really dangerous to kids and all that kind of stuff. Like even now to this day, right, it's a massive discussion. Or protect your kids from those who are trans, for example, all those kind of stupid rhetorics or narratives. But it was really kind of just kind of nice to see that actually the son was just so open and kind of warm and actually wanted to be really kind of immersed in that world. And I think even though I can't remember what year, I don't know actually what year it came out, but I think actually it's still very much
1994.
1994, cool, thank you. Yeah, I think actually it's still very relevant to perhaps some people's lived experiences today. I agree with Ben. I actually think probably some of the lived experiences or challenges that people feel is probably worse, more so kind of now. So yeah, it was kind of nice to see the kind of that final scene. I think was quite. I think I almost started crying actually. The final scene with the ABBA song and obviously the kid then doing the lighting as well. I was like, oh man, that's like the world that you want to see, right? And if there's a way to kind of end it and give some sense of like hope, that was a really nice way to end. So yeah, I thought it was a really good film. I think it touched on a lot of issues really well, and yeah, I think kind of still holds up in terms of being relevant. To an extent, I think now. So I think a really good pick. And again, would love to see the musical. Having seen the film as well, to kind of see how the songs, what other kind of songs are added to it as well, or what they do differently. So yeah, really great pick, man. I really enjoyed it.
I think it's sorry, before whoever's next. I think on the issues that they deal with, I think it does feel really poignant, and it's kind of sad on the one hand that but sad that there's a lot of the issues that they face, no matter how far we think we've come, like 21 years now later. Some of the issues, especially in like smaller towns and smaller communities, when people might have been exposed to less kind of diversity, where there's still people that are kind of closed-minded towards gay folks. And I don't know, the first time I saw it, I cried as well at the end, Rachel. Just was like, this is really sweet, and I really loved how his son was so supportive, and he just wanted his parents to be happy, and his son kind of is so unbothered kind of by the things that Hugo Weaving's character is worried about. But what I wanted to touch on was when they're in the first small town, how like someone scrawls graffiti on their bus. And it's every single time I watch the film, it does feel so poignant, because it is still kind of a fear, like when you deal with people, when you go into unknown places, how are people going to react to you if you're within that community? And like I remember my brother telling me his partner used to work for BA, and their next door neighbor was always really rude to them, really horrible to them, and it's just kind of not something that you expect in the middle of London. And it kind of led to there being an incident one time when his partner was on a flight and their neighbor was on the same flight, and the neighbor was rude and abusive to him at work, when it's also something that he's dealt with kind of at home, with it being his next door neighbor, old next door neighbor. He doesn't live there anymore. But it's just so poignant how kind of they're so fearless in kind of just being like, this is who we are. Why would we be scared to go out on the street? But then you still come across the same abuse or kind of ignorance from people, if it's not necessarily violent, but just ignorance from people and unkindness. I think the film touches on it really well, about that being kind of fears people in that community might face.
Yeah, I think it's something like, obviously it's really awful that happened, and I think it's also like when you see it, then I guess you kind of assume that like big cities like London, you wouldn't kind of meet those people, like meet people. Yeah. I think it's interesting now that it kind of almost seeing, I guess, it now kind of seep into the bigger cities where you typically think you would maybe be safer as well. So I think that's kind of it is slightly worrying and quite scary where we're going. But I think I was saying, I can't remember who I was saying it to, Rob, but do you remember we were talking about what were we talking about with family? And I was kind of saying like where perhaps, because I think sometimes you get kind of like older generations kind of talking about, oh, you know, it's uncomfortable, or perhaps it's not something that my generation were used to or used to seeing kind of thing. And I think it was saying like the amount of like courage that it takes somebody like that kind of I can't remember what I was saying, but just you kind of made me think of it. I can't remember, Rob, if you know what I'm referring to, but I just think like that person doesn't necessarily want to like is making it has how do I explain it, like Rob, what was I saying? I forgot what I think you know what I mean. I'm just saying for that person, it is so difficult to just want to be themselves and actually to show up and actually have that courage is almost as like is you know what I mean, Rob? Do you know what I'm getting at? I can't remember what I said.
The only conversation I can
It was over Christmas.
the one I'm thinking of was like 2 years ago. It was
Oh no, I can't remember what it was, but it was something along the lines of I think maybe it was me and you, or maybe it was me and Daphne at Christmas because we're having a discussion with my dad. But I was just saying, like, for that person to kind of be brave enough, I guess, to kind of go out into the world as they are and as they wish to be, like, and still show up and kind of have that courage, I guess, in terms of like getting on stage and doing drag when you know that perhaps actually there's potential people in the audience that are gonna, I don't know, throw something at you or say something at you, or just to kind of still exist in terms of perhaps people thinking you look, I don't know, particularly flamboyant or behaving in a particular way. Like the courage, I guess, that takes somebody. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's pretty. I don't know, like I don't know, just incredible in a sense. I think when some people say it kind of feels, yeah, kind of. I'll think about what I said, but it just was something that Camilla said made me really think about something that I was talking about on Christmas. But I'll move on because I know Corey and Alec haven't said their opening statements, and I can't remember what it was I was going to say.
Oh, I hope you remember.
I hope so too.
I hate that. Yeah, so I had actually never even heard of this movie. So, but when I learned about what it was about, I was really looking forward to it. Um, and I do think, thinking about what time it came from, quite a few, handful of decades ago now. Um, yeah, I had never seen Hugo Weaving in something like I'm a bigger fan of like Hugo Weaving in particular, and to see him and this character was really interesting. Um, Wonderful. I think he did a fantastic job. Like I think he was one of the standouts for me in this movie. Um, and so yeah, so I did, and throughout the movie, I did feel more like it was like a more realistic viewpoint of um drag queens and trans people and gay people being out in like, and they talked about it, like leaving their like bigger city. It was Sydney that they started off in, and then going out into more like rural, smaller towns, and just like where, yeah, you generally find that there's like less variety of people, less acceptance, and it was definitely it was hard to see how many times they were kind of just like responded with kind of, that classic discrimination um and in some cases violence, and just knowing how much of that's still happening for us, like, it's been quite a while now, and it's just hard. It was hard to see um a glimpse of that, but near the end it did really lift up um when we meet his little son, and they're both, so like Hugo Weaving's character and Guy Pearce's character, we see them both have like these interactions with this kid, and they're kind of expecting, kind of like hesitant to be like their like full selves. They're kind of afraid of what he'll think, the little boy will think. And then they're both just like pleasantly surprised of how like accepting the boy is, and just open and like non-judgmental, and really like not like it's obviously been like so normalized for him, which is just like so wonderful to see. And I know that's happening more and more now. where it's all just like I'm so looking forward to the day when none of this will just be a big deal, you know, when we're all just people. I'm very much looking forward to that day, but it's a long ways coming. But yeah, I thought it was a really accurate depiction, unfortunately. And obviously, yeah, just the life of being in that community. It's not always easy. But I'm really grateful that, you know, and it ended on that note where like you can find a safe place to be where you could just be yourself and celebrate that and not have to worry, just like, you know, be yourself and not have to worry. Like you would hope that for anybody to be able to do that. So yeah, I really and I did have like very many joyful moments as well, you know, when it was just such a relief when they met like a nice person, a nice accepting person. So yeah, there was like one point where like when and how it all felt a bit sometimes too real to me is like when I thought like, oh, we're getting like, you know, the turning point in the movie where they're going to be accepted unexpectedly. And it was when they were doing that number right before the ping pong ball scene. So it's like, and I just loved the song. Like they were just like, I thought it was going to be a fantastic moment, and then it was just like crickets after they finished their number, and it was just like that was just one part of the movie where just like, oh yeah, this movie's getting pretty real, pretty accurate depiction of what it can be like. So, but it did thankfully have some uplifting stuff in it, and I did love how it showed like different scenarios, you know, like Bernadette talking about what kind of marriage she had, and Mitzi turning out to have like an ex-wife and a kid, and like I liked how that showed that, you know, just like people can have a family, you know, a family can be however, you know, and but yeah, it was really a really interesting watch. I enjoyed it. I'm glad to have seen it, and yeah, good stuff. A lot. I could see why you were into the soundtrack. A lot of good songs. I love that part too. But yeah, pretty cool stuff. Thanks for picking it, Camilla.
Okay, I think it's just me, right?
I don't think Alex been.
Oh, Alec. Hey, Alec. Well, since I'm here, I'll say myself. Just to completely random note, I forgot to message in the chat earlier. Specific you. It's specific to your country, Corey. I'm really happy to hear about Terry Crews being finally put. Not Terry Crews. It's not Terry Crews. The person being put on your money who had cancer, ran across Canada but couldn't finish.
Wait, Terry Crews.
What's his name?
Terry Crews.
Yeah, I heard Terry Crews, and I was like, wait, I didn't like.
I know I
Now
didn't get the name right.
Crews, I can't think of it's Terry something.
Terry Nutkins?
No.
Cortez?
He's a hero.
Yeah,
Terry's
I
Chocolate
know.
Orange?
Chocolate Orange, got that.
Search Terry.
I've got-
Camilla's searching it now.
God damn it, you
Terry
just made me
Fox.
think.
Terry Fox.
Terry
Okay.
Fox, yeah.
Oh.
Okay. Just imagine Terry Crews with him going, Old Spice! Just like, no, and it's just not. Okay, sorry. Christ, wait.
Terry Crews needs to be on money, to be completely fair.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, sorry about that, but yeah, that whole story was really cool. Like so many people where they was asking for nominations of who to put on the money next, and so many nominations came in for him. And yeah, the different foundations and different things, people still doing his name. It's awesome. Like really cool guy. If you don't know about him, look into his story. I'm sure Corey knows much more about it than me, but it was just really inspiring to hear. So.
I was going to say, Terry Crews has had a bit of an eventful life. He's gone from the San Diego Chargers to Brooklyn Nine-Nine to Canadian money.
You missed White Chicks there in the list of his amazing life.
That's who I was thinking of. Yes, Terry Crews. That sounded familiar.
I really like the film, but it's quite troubling as well, isn't it?
It's iconic. I haven't seen it in a really long time.
I don't forget when I.
That's
That's the real guy. Oh, he's lost a leg. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't forget, like ages ago, I used to get Terry Crews and Mike Tyson mixed up.
One's been in prison.
Yeah, true.
That's better than Emmanuel. One's white.
Yeah, as soon as I said the last name, I was just like, yeah, I know. But as soon as I said the name, I was like, that's not the right name. Anyway, you know I'm talking about Corey. I was just like, someone can correct me. I know this is not right.
And I actually didn't know he's going to be on Our Money. I didn't know that. Who is he replacing?
I forgot that it's some. Camilla's gonna look it up.
Is he going to be? I think actually McDonald's was already replaced.
Wait, who? Ronald McDonald.
No, I'll have to check afterwards, but I forgot the name. It's one of the guys on The Money. Yeah, so one of the guys.
Show me the money.
Nice. The way he says it speaks. I can't remember the name. Waves, amounts. Anyway,
Wade Wilson.
No, let me just stop. I can't think of words.
That's up there with one of your most obscure tangents I've ever heard. You do some tangents, but that was the most obscure.
He replaces Wilfrid Laurier.
Oh.
L'Oreal. Wow.
On the $50.
I thought it was gonna be the $5 bill.
Oh, sorry. Wilfrid is moving to the $50 and Fox is going to be on the $5.
Oh.
But where's Terry Crews? Is he all right? Is he safe?
He's trying to save the makers of Expendables from doing inappropriate things. So he's run back to San Diego to the LA Chargers.
Oh man. But, yeah. So, sorry about that. Actually, not sorry. Yes, sorry, not sorry. It's great news. Anyway, so about the film, yeah, I've never seen it as well. I'm surprised. Actually, I'm not surprised. We haven't seen it yet. There's a lot of films that we haven't seen that. Actually, you didn't realize I haven't seen this.
No, I knew you hadn't seen it. I quite often tease him with films, we'll sing songs from them or quote them, and he'll be like, "What film is it?" And then I don't tell him. So,
and I'll be like, and if
we'll watch it when we get around to watching it.
And if I know what the film is, I'm just like, oh, let's watch it. Like we didn't watch Mean Girls. Actually, we watched Clueless after maybe a year or two of being together, but we didn't watch Mean Girls for 4 years.
Literally did watch it for 6 months ago.
And I kept saying, "Oh, we can watch. You want to watch Mean Girls or something like?" No, I'm not in the mood for that. I was just like,
I've seen Mean Girls too many times.
It's fair, but you also was just like, you gotta see this. And I was like, okay, let's. You say, yeah, we'll watch it together, and then we just wouldn't watch it. There's many films. There's not many. There's a few things like. But anyway. Back to sorry, I went off on another tangent.
Don't say back to Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, like you started.
I can pretend, Just anyway, but yeah, so yeah, didn't see it. Didn't really know what to expect. I wasn't sure if I would like her or anything, because I only in passing at one point knew that Hugo Weaving was in it, because I think a few months ago, it might have been when you last spoke about it. I think I saw a bit of a trailer, and I was like, Hugo Weaving, huh? Okay, I didn't notice anyone else. But saying that, maybe I didn't really notice anyone else. Just like a lot of real people didn't as well in real life. When I think it was related to the bar scene they did, they all it truly got properly drunk. He took them out on the director took them out on the town kind of thing. No one recognized them. Like I think Felicia, that Guy Pearce was truly acting like that in real life. I think Hugo Weaving was just like almost passed out on the table, tapping along to the music in their drag. It was just funny to kind of hear that story. But I thought in general, I thought, yeah, besides the part with the Filipino lady, as Camilla said, I did not age well.
I don't think it was good at the time either, probably.
Yeah. I would have liked that to be different. Otherwise, I couldn't really fault any of the writing. And when I was saying fantastical, I was saying that it reached a good balance of this is like as Simon was saying, flamboyant, which is probably more accurate, but it's kind of fantastical feel in different moments, but it's still within the realms of this is realistic, but it's just kind of unique. It's just it's their life, but it's also it's got that good balance, I think, in the writing. Someone else said that before as well, but I was thinking in terms of the just like someone else said, down to earth parts, but also when they're doing their performances. And I thought maybe the best way to explain it to someone who hasn't seen it, because he was thinking about it's not a musical kind of thing. I was thinking you could explain it as almost like a behind the scenes movie, or like dramatized movie of a drag queen's kind of life, like what they go through. And if you think about it from that point of view, yeah, whenever they're singing or performing, it's because they are performers. All the rest of the film, they're not just randomly breaking out in song. It's like to tell a story. They just talk like anyone else because it's their life. But yeah, while I know I didn't it's not like, oh, I super love this. I really respected all of it and everything was done. I liked how it was done. Loved the Hugo Weaving's wife in that. Tick his name?
Yeah.
Tick's wife. Yeah, I loved his wife in that. I thought it was really well done. It kind of approached a lot of scenes, like I think Rachel said, with good balance. But yeah, good pick, good film.
It's good.
I think it's Alex turn.
Yeah, I was really really impressed. I'd never heard of it, but I usually ask Eb if she wants to watch what we're watching this week, and she generally says no. So I went, do you have any interest in one called Priscilla, Queen of the Desert? And she went, fucking yes. And she was like, it's one of my favourites. It's like an Australian classic. So yeah, we went and we watched that, and I wasn't expecting to laugh as hard as I did that morning. Like I think I was worried about rupturing something. Like just Terrence Stamp is. I don't have a lot of exposure to Terrence Stamp, but yeah, I didn't expect to come out of it going like fucking hell, what like absolute beast of a character that like he was in that. Like, but Bernadette's probably one of my favourites. Probably one of my favourites ever. Probably has snuck into my top 50 favourite characters. Like she just has so many amazing like one-liners. just I don't know. I was just, but like, there was a lot of depth to her as well. Like just as a drag queen who's been doing it for like so long, and she's just like so fucking done with it. Really, really, I thought that was like a nice sort of offset to Mitzi and Adam, just or Felicia, just kind of like how they're quite young and they're still kind of talking about like all the stuff that they're into, and he's just like, okay, so he's just going like, can you shut the fuck up? And she's just so like weary of it and everything. I thought that was like really, really cool. And yeah, I don't know. It's nice to see Hugo Weaving in other stuff because like I only know him as Elrond from Lord of the Rings, so this is like a big. This was like a bit of a big shock to the system, I think.
And agents.
And V.
Oh yeah,
I forgot he was big.
yeah.
And
That, I
agents.
guess.
On it.
Yeah, I thought Alec liked Matrix.
Why? Boosh! Take that. But yeah, had like an awful lot of fun with it. I have been recommending it to other people. Just casually, just in my life. So yeah, thanks a lot for that one.
Yeah, Emmanuel said he also only remembers him as Agent Smith, although he called him Mr. Anderson. So I think he might need to watch the Matrix again.
Restoration.
Is Emmanuel right? I only remember Hugo Weaving as Terry Crews.
That's true.
Emmanuel's
Yeah.
tired. I leave him.
Yeah.
He's wide awake now. He did have to kind of shake him to wake up for the call, but he's wide awake. He's made me food. He's fine. He's not tired anymore.
Good. Yeah, Hugo Weaving and Guy Pearce. I think and Terence Stamp as well. All three of them are so good actors, and like the script they had in this, just they could like sink their teeth into. Like they kind of made it even better. I think, just because of how good they are. Like Terence Stamp is like this thespian. He's just a classically trained actor of such panache and style, and like he's always been great. And I feel that it kind of suits him to do something that's really flamboyant. And I didn't realise Guy Pearce had it in him to do something like this as well, because he's usually quite a straight-laced American. He plays American actors usually, and you never really see his range. He's always good. And then Hugo Weaving, he's always been quietly good, but never been in your face like one that everyone would know as a whole household name. But he's always been brilliant, as Alex said, in Lord of the Rings, V for Vendetta, Matrix. He's always been a silently brilliant actor and brings so much to it. And the three of them together just like elevated it all.
They just make such a good trio.
Yeah,
like you just having like the older one, the very young one, like who's like trying to get. See, I don't know. I think like you kind of. I think I like that Bernadette's like quite weary of it, but like is also the first one to just kind of like act. Is the first one to like voice things like when shit goes down and everything.
He's so straight and kind of like says it how it is as well.
Yeah. I like that Adam is like on the other end of the spectrum and like clearly does it to kind of like get a rise out of people, and you have that aspect of it. And like it, obviously causes like sorry, Corey.
Oh no, you were still going. I was interrupting. You finished.
And then I like that you got Hugo Weaving in the middle, where like he's a little bit older than Adam, but like he's still kind of like into it. But like he is like he seems to be a lot more cognizant and anxious of like kind of the danger of like the way like that they can like be perceived. He's like at peak anxiety, and like most of the time, Bernadette's like, I've seen too much shit to be anxious about it, and Adam just doesn't know. He's not seen that side of it lately, and he like reacts the worst to it, and it's I don't know. I think it's just like an interesting. It's such an interesting dynamic. I think.
Yeah, they're
It's
so
a
good.
nice little cross section.
They're great characters, and that have so much like they bounce off each other really, really well because they're so distinctive. Like we said, because you can't really misinterpret any scene because you know exactly who they are from the beginning, and they're just consistent, but they still have like a mini arc. Each one has a little tiny arc of where they start and where they end, and how they change as people and how they want their lives to go. And I thought that was really clever as well. They kind of have to go together in this tangent, and then they split, which is always fascinating.
I think that's something as well that they kind of touch on with like, the aspect of doing this, and I think it's something that I kind of wanted to talk about in relation to her because I did miss that call, but it's just kind of like that lifestyle is like in the way that it is quite unconventional. You kind of don't have a roadmap, and you don't have people to help you, and like I think that's a big aspect of Bernadette, where like she's like the eldest of them, and she still doesn't really know what she's doing about it, and like she's just found a guy who is like sympathetic to them, and she's kind of gone like, I don't fucking know if that's going to work, but I can only really try it out, and it's like, yeah, I don't know, I find that aspect quite interesting, where like it's just not a conventional lifestyle, and no one like gives you like a book on how to do it. They're kind of always just feeling it out, no matter how long they've been doing it. Like,
I really liked a scene with Mitzi for that reason, because it's another thing that shows like the contrast in where they all are. Because you've got like Bernadette, who she's a trans woman who is still doing this, and she's still in this kind of like lifestyle, and then you've got Adam, who's like really young and it's all new to him, and you know he's kind of like having fun with it and being naive as he wants. And I really like that scene where they find out that Mitzi had a wife. Sorry, and there's that whole thing about like, I think Bernadette says, "Oh, he plays for both teams" or something like that, and he's like, "Oh no, I don't." And then they're like, "Well, are you straight? Are you gay? What?" And then he's like, "I don't know." And I really liked how it wasn't pushed. It was just like, he doesn't know. That's fine. That's the end of it. Like it's, yeah. I thought that was a really nice moment.
But
Sorry,
Corey was going to say something.
Oh, all I was gonna say is like, yeah, I did really enjoy the differences between the characters. But I was gonna say I was consistently annoyed by Adam. He was such a little butt, but it does like show like a good like foil to like the difference between them, and just like how like youth and just like craziness. It offered a really sad point to the story too, because he was the one that kind of got himself into the biggest mess, so that's not surprising. But yeah, I will say though, the one thing that really bugged me the most about him, which I think like these days they wouldn't write that in for a character that we're supposed to be like kind of mostly liking for the most part, is like, I don't know if anybody knows the term dead naming. But yeah, when he insisted on, like, once he learned what Bernadette's name was before, and like using it, even though it really bugged the hell out of Bernadette and Fairly Wood, I just thought that was really disrespectful. And like, I would hope that in a story today that wouldn't be like that.
But he does pay for it dearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It shows you that is a problematic thing to do.
I think part of Adam's problem, with Corey, like, he really annoyed me. And as I've got older, he's annoyed me more, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, can you just turn it down, just like dial it back? And I think that's why I love Bernadette so much, because she will fight for you, but at the same time, or she will fight you, but at the same time, she's just over it, and she's just allowed to be over it. And I think she makes, as you're watching it, she makes you feel okay to be sick of Adam, because she's sick of Adam. But I think part of Adam's problem, I'm not sure. I think it probably would be written in for him to dad name Bernadette nowadays, just because I think that like whenever he doesn't know what to say, or he wants to get a reaction, or he's feeling a bit offended by someone, he lashes out. And I think he is just always, whatever's happening, you can count on Adam to say like something disrespectful to somebody. Maybe nowadays he wouldn't be quite so hurtful because he's got a better understanding. But yeah, I think that he's literally just always trying to get a rise out of people, that he doesn't really care when he's disrespectful or who he's disrespectful to, which is what makes it part of what makes him so infuriating. Cause it's like, this is not a moment where like we need you to like make a comment. Like, it'd drive me mad if I knew him personally. I think he's probably the only one that I wouldn't want to know personally in this film.
And then when he met the wife, and he was annoyed because she had similar energy to him.
Yeah, which too much energy. But she was quite nice because she was like,
oh yeah, she's nice. She wasn't annoying at all.
She's like a similar level of energy, but she's also at the same time like warm and caring. And I love when she says to Mitzi, or when Hugo Weaving is not in drag when he's Adam, and she's like, "Oh, shut up and drink your daiquiri," and makes a joke about the daiquiris, and it's like, I appreciate your ability to like just subtly make fun of someone, like you know how to.
It's so Australian.
Yeah, but it's also like an understanding of how to de-escalate something at the same time. Whereas Adam's thing is, oh, I'm just gonna say whatever, and it may land where it may. Like, she's very good at, I might be cheeky to you, but like it's for a reason, which I think is really well.
And it's also like really like, because I got the sense that she was like really loving of Tick, and like you know, they had closeness and that camaraderie, and that kind of just like, she knows a line and she'll toe it, but she won't cross it. And I think Adam like crossed it. He just like blazed past that line, and that's where I just like not a fan. But
yeah, but you also get that kind of little bit of when he's trying to like gauge where Benj is with it, and Ben is just kind of go like, he just doesn't seem like that bothered about it. But he's going like, "What do you think about your dad doing this then?" And he's just like, "Yeah, whatever, I don't give a shit." He's just like, what if he has a boyfriend when you get back? And he's like, "Does he?" And he's like, "No." He's like, "Oh, no worries. Do you want to play Lego?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's just...
I love Benji. I love his energy. He's just like, he's so unbothered. And it's so lovely, like that scene before they go and do the hike, where like he can really sense like Adam's discomfort and his kind of fakeness in that moment. And he's just so honest that like he helps his dad be able to be himself. And well, that's such a lovely moment. Like, it's really nice.
I think that's sort of where I got Adam like quite well there, because you can tell he was sort of like prodding to kind of like see what the reaction was. But then when Benj didn't give him one, he was like, "Oh, all right, I'm not gonna make one where none exists. If you're fine with it, whatever." And then that's it. He just doesn't like bring it up again, and it's like, yeah, well.
Yeah.
But I can see why you find him annoying. Like he is kind of designed to be irritating.
Yeah, I think it's irritating.
I think that's needed though, in a way, like to have that kind of lack of understanding, I guess, of kind of like that generational struggle of perhaps what Bernadette kind of went through. And then obviously because Bernadette's the one that's kind of comforting Adam once he has the physical assault, and kind of is the one that's kind of talking to him. I think you kind of needed that dynamic to kind of I don't know, for that moment when she is comforting Adam afterwards in the hotel room and so on. I think that kind of I don't know, it's kind of important, that kind of struggle, I guess, that she's probably been through, and probably been through more so, I guess, because of, probably before transitioning, but then probably more so after transitioning as well. I think that kind of, it was kind of set up in a way for him to kind of not initially kind of have that respect, but that respect kind of be grown through actually that kind of I guess kind of like care and support and kind of experience, I guess, that Bernadette has because of her own kind of lived experiences as well. So I think it's kind of he's an arse and it's not nice to see, but I think it's helpful for his own growth and perhaps the journey that he's on in terms of his own kind of kind of like pathway forward. Adam.
Yeah, I think it's actually quite a nice sort of like nuance to the film as well, because it's like it's kind of what I was saying earlier, that they're kind of going through all this stuff, and I think what's really good is that the stuff that they're going through, they're never defined by it. It's just something that's happening to them. But I think it's really nice that there's a nuance that it's not just them three against the world. It's also that they've got problems amongst themselves as well.
Yeah.
And particularly Bernadette, because she's not a gay man like those two. She's transsexual. So it's like, you know, she's coming up against her own barrier within her own community as well. And it's that, you know, even between the three of them, she's got a difference that the other two don't have. I think that's a really nice aspect to it all. And I think the way that they put that on Adam is quite nice as well, because I think he's always shown as being like naive and a bit of a dick rather than an awful person. And I think the way that he learns throughout it is quite nice to see as well.
I think you even see it on like for example, RuPaul's Drag Race, right? When actually there was a season or season where they had their first trans woman who was a drag queen on the show, and just kind of again seeing kind of other contestants who are gay men or straight men who do drag, like being like, oh well, why are you kind of here? Do you have an advantage? And like kind of seeing, I guess, kind of sussing each other out and kind of questioning people's motivations and whether they can do drag if they transition. And I think it's quite a lot of like Rob said, I think kind of like you said, nuance in kind of the community, and still kind of challenges within the community in terms of actually like kind of like cooperation, acceptance, kindness as well. So I think it kind of explores that in some really good ways, like I said, with what's her name, Marion, and her relationship with Nick, but then also I guess the kind of strain and the kind of tension that maybe exists between, like I said, Adam and Bernadette as well. So I think it kind of explored that really nicely.
I think some of on Bernadette and the struggles that she's been through, I think watching it in the 21st century, especially if you're a lot younger, like I say, if you're like in your early 20s, we might lose some of kind of the context of what she would have been through. Because like I just looked it up, and Terence Stamp was born in 1938, and like Bernadette will have lived through so many changes, like the Stonewall riot, kind of more and more queer acceptance as it's kind of gone through the years. And I think they all would have, to an extent, have lived through some of the AIDS crisis, but Bernadette would have been like our age at the start of it, kind of, or maybe even older. I don't really know. So I didn't bother to do the maths, but it's just like what she must have lived through and what she must have been through and fought. And then, as Rob said, like Adam is a bit naive. Like he doesn't even. I think also because his personality is like this effervescent attention seeker, it doesn't even occur to him to be cautious or to be mindful of certain issues. And what's quite nice about the film, because it's not about their problems, because it's not about the world against them. Like there's a bit of kind of what's going on in the world in the film, but it's not the world against them. I think maybe in nowadays we can maybe lose a bit of how kind of I don't know if the right word is revolutionary, but how kind of major it would have been, like those characters would have been in their time, when all of them, in just like they do today, there's challenges to be gay or to be trans or to be drag queen. Like 30 years ago, it still would have been like the barriers would have been even higher. I'm not where I was going with that thought, but I just thought it was really interesting that we know Ben. She says I know how to fight. It's not easy being a man one day and a woman the next, but like there's so much more behind that other than just like, oh, she transitioned, and it's easy for some people and it's not for others. That like in this day and age, it would have been very different whenever it was that she did it.
Yeah, and I think Adam kind of benefits from a certain level of privilege, right? Perhaps not kind of dealing with the kind of extent, perhaps, of some of the challenges that Bernadette faced. And I think at the beginning when Bernadette says about Trumpet, I said certainly, didn't I? Like that essentially alluded to the fact that Trumpet was only with her as like out of like a sexual fetish or something like that around her being trans, and I think that was kind of like, again, that kind of in a relationship but not really being perhaps accepted as, not that person not really kind of loving or wanting to be with you because of who you actually feel you are yourself, in a way, actually something different. I think is obviously another kind of I guess kind of challenge or kind of hardship that she's had to face. Even though she's been in a relationship, she's kind of still wasn't with somebody who loved her for how she felt in herself in terms of following her transition as well. So yeah.
It's cool how they touched on that.
That's the thing. You can kind of see why. Oh, sorry, Corey. Did I talk over you there?
I just said it's cool how they touched on that, and now I can't even remember what I was responding to when I said that. Oh yeah, no, I was referring to the kind of marriage that Bernadette had with Trumpet. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that I think it's I think that's actually a really nice way to look at Bernadette's character when she's got to spend so much time with somebody like Adam, because it's like she sort of naturally takes on kind of like a mentor role and tries to help him out and whatever, despite being a bit of like a soft punching bag for him. But it's that contrast again, and it's like he's got the privilege of growing up in a world that's slightly less harsh than the one she did, and dealing with things that maybe aren't seen as quite as taboo as what she's dealing with. So yeah, I think that those two aspects in forming her character is really I don't know what the right word is, but for a film that's as old as this is, it's pretty cool.
How old is it again?
94, so it's 31 years old.
Oh fuck, I'm older than it. Shit.
We're all old now, Alec. Unfortunately.
Oh, I had hope.
I'm still younger.
Well, there's always one. I was just gonna say to what Rachel and Corey were saying about Bernadette and Trumpet, I think, and I don't know why I never really, maybe I did and I forgot, but this particular time watching it, I didn't think about that in the context of Bernadette and Bob. He's called Bob, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Because I guess that's part of why she's so hesitant, because he's such a lovely guy. He's like such a lovely kind of like he's just a nice person. He's just a very accepting, like, this is what it is. Obviously that there's that moment when, for his own self-preservation, he isn't immediately as forthcoming as you'd maybe want him to be, but it wouldn't have been safe for him either to risk being beaten up by a group of guys 20 years younger than you, or more than 20 years younger than you, and a place that he relies on for business. So it's like understandable. But I think part of Bernadette's concerning to going into a potential relationship with him is, am I a fetish to you, like my deceased husband, or are you actually interested in me for me? And it's kind of nice that like he is interested, and he does kind of have this almost fascination with lay girls, but not from the point of view of it being a fetish, but more from the point of view of like, this is cool. This is the thing that people do. This is cool. Like that's I mean, we don't get more than that to go off, but it kind of just gives the impression that like he just thinks it's kind of cool and interesting. he's probably the kind of person that Adam kind of meets the world as if they act like Bob, where it doesn't occur to Bob to discriminate against people or to be, have prejudice against people, and that's kind of the world Adam thinks he lives in. But Bob just takes kind of everything at very face value. This is who these people are, and this is kind of how they appear. So I'll take that as it comes.
I just quickly looked up the release date, and I hate to tell you, Rachel, you're 3 months older than
it. So upset.
What's the release date?
It's like the end of October 1994.
Oh.
You know what I think was interesting? I don't know if this is just like I wasn't able to tell myself whether we knew if I think back in these days, because like drag queens started off purely as men, right? It was men dressing up as women, and now, from what I can tell, I'm not in the community of drag queens, so I don't know, but I'm seeing that from what I've gathered, from what I've seen from, it's just like there's now more of like a flexibility and like who can be a drag queen. And so I just thought it was interesting that in like such an old movie, because like in these days I think it's like a controversy. I think it's still controversy and like who is welcomed into a drag queen community for performing. But yeah, so I think it must have been the case that Bernadette was a drag queen before she transitioned, I guess. Is that I actually it did Are we told in the story that like she transitioned, what, like how old she was when she transitioned or anything like that?
I don't think we're told. I don't think we know. But I think I made the same assumption that she was a drag queen before. Or at least she was a performer before she transitioned.
I think
Yeah.
the only bit that sort of nods towards when she would have transitioned is when she talks about how her parents stopped talking to her. So I took from that she was perhaps a bit younger than she is when we meet her. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. I just think that's a really interesting point of like it's kind, because since it's controversial today who is accepted into the drag as a drag queen, that for like Rachel, I think you talked about briefly, for like a trans woman to be a drag queen still is just like not, it's I think there is some, I've heard of like some, like I guess you would call it like gatekeeping, like keeping drag queens to just men. So I did think it was interesting that they had her still performing, as a woman, to be a drag queen. It's just like I just thought it was cool. But it's just I there's so much going on in the movie. I can understand why it wasn't touched on as like a topic, but I did take note of it being like interesting.
Yeah, I've seen a Drag King. They did Disney songs. It was great. At the Brighton Fringe Festival. Yeah, I think it's not again. Not I don't know if RuPaul had a Drag King on once, but yeah, it's quite still quite interesting, kind of seeing, like I said, sometimes the tension or the kind of gatekeeping, like you say, on sometimes of the show, or feeling like people maybe have a bit more of a advantage, perhaps because of maybe their, I don't know, they've gone through a transition and maybe their face or bone structure, for example, or anything like that, or kind of like getting like breasts, for example, or yeah, like it's interesting to kind of see the kind of discussions, I guess, people have as they're getting ready on every as well.
Yeah, because part of the whole artistry is like the like transformation, right? I guess like yeah.
Yeah.
So I could see like this is this is a very I wish I could hear people who are like in the drag queen community to talk about this. I'm probably gonna go YouTubing after this, but I just think, yeah, I've heard like since like it started, like how many things go is like it starts off a certain way and then it grows and expands and it just like becomes bigger than what it was before to start. I just think like it, of course, like always honor the roots and like why it started and how it started.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool to just like be like accepting if like somebody's passionate and respectful to just like, you know. Yeah. So
I wondered what something I raised with Rob, and I guess I wondered what people thought was that obviously it's based on a true story, I think, or kind of based partly on it. I don't know kind of to what extent. I know Rob mentioned that one of the drag queens was at the end of in the credits. I guess I thought it was interesting that they were meant to play, the real drag queens were meant to play themselves in the film, and obviously then they were replaced by the actors, like what's it called, Terrence something, like now, and I guess they're all like cis white men, and I just wondered what people's thoughts were on like that, and whether actually that made a difference. Did it make a difference? I read on Wikipedia, which I'm not saying is the most reliable source, but I think the studios felt that having the actors, not having the original drag queens whose story it was, made the film more, it's in quote marks, bankable. I don't know if that means like more money, better value, I don't know, but I just thought it was interesting to kind of have it be on a true story and not actually have those people play themselves, and instead bring in these kind of other actors to tell their story.
Well, are you saying, sorry, and I unfortunately didn't watch the end credits. I wish I saw, I had no time to. So the true part of the true story was based on a drag queen who was a person of color.
No. So they are I don't know who the original three were, but the idea was that the original three in real life, whose actual story it was, were meant to play themselves in the film, and then obviously they were replaced by these actors who are not necessarily, I mean, I don't know them well enough to know if they're necessarily gay or if they do drag, all that kind of stuff. But in terms of actually not having the original drag queens actually play themselves and getting in these actors, I guess I wondered kind of whether people knew more about that or what people's thoughts were, or because I was saying about like representation actually. You know, Terrence, I can't remember his name, Terrence Stamp, is that his name?
Stamp.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking like when I was thinking about my acting school, and I think I can't remember what point I said in the film, and I said, wouldn't it be cool if actually you had people whose story it was, and it was actually their opportunity in terms of like, I don't know, representation or just being able to tell their story. And I know, Rob, you kind of said, what did you say?
I was just saying that I'm not sure that would have been a consideration in 1994, because I think like the idea of like representation for sort of like gay people, transsexual people, and you know whoever, like I think that's quite a recent thing. Or at least a recent thing in mainstream.
It could have been them telling their own story, though. Didn't have to be finding those actors. It could have been.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I just think like I don't think it would have been a casting decision back then, like it would be now.
Yeah, I think actually having. Oh, sorry, just to clarify, you think actually having relatively well, I don't know, kind of at the time how well known they were, but having those actors come in was perhaps a more appropriate choice to the studio to tell that story, because.
Well, I think
is that what you mean?
I think it's well, more what I'm saying is that I think in 1994 it would have been an easier decision to make than it would be now. Like I think if the film was made now, then there would have been a consideration to say, should we have actors with the same backgrounds as these characters, or should we have the actual people themselves? Whereas in 1994, I don't think representation was a conversation at studio level like it would be now.
There's definitely a double-edged sword to it all, because one thing, like as you're saying, Rachel, were they actors anyway, and would they be able to give the performance these three actors did in this if they were just real people doing them, playing themselves? I think me and Pat saw a film no less directed by the great Clint Eastwood. It was a film about, I think it was about this terrorist incident on a train a few years ago, and the actors in this film were playing themselves as they were when the incident happened, and they were not good actors. They appreciate them playing who they were and what they went through on the screen, but they did not perform it as well as, say, if they cast actually really like thespian actors like Terrence Stamp. So there is that side to it. However, I think there's the other side of it. Is like, I don't know if you guys know about this film Philadelphia with Denzel Washington and Tom Hanks, where Tom Hanks plays a gay man. I think the film came out in the 80s, and I think if that film came out now, they would 100% get a gay actor, someone of a homosexual actor that could do the part that Tom Hanks played in that film. And back then, it probably would not been easy to finance and get a green light on a film like that with a gay actor in it that did not have a star power as Tom Hanks did in the 80s. So I feel that getting someone of note always helps get a film out and seen as many people as possible, gets the funding, gets everything it deserves, and it gets more eyes on it. And it spreads the awareness of what the film's about to more people, more eyes, because they've got someone that everyone's familiar with. And sure, they could have got a real homosexual actor to play the part of Tom Hanks, and they should have got real drag queen or transsexual people or gay people to play the actors in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. That is 100% valid. But would they have got, as one, good performances out of them, and two, would it have been as successful as it was? And would it have been less successful if they didn't? Or would it have been more successful? It's hard to say. But I feel like I can see why Hollywood would do that, because we want as many people to see these films as possible. It helps spread the theme and awareness of what this film is all about, and I feel it's like a very necessary thing to do at that point in history.
I think sorry, go on, Alex.
I was gonna say, I think that's the thing. Like, do you want it to be like a documentary, or do you want people to like be able to access it? And I think when you have actors, like when you have professional actors doing it, I think like Ben just said, like you are able to access more of an audience than if you're playing your own life, and it's like it probably is like quite a like source of conflict where you're being played by a straight cis man, but like I think it's kind of like, do you want what's more important, that your story is told or that you're the one being seen doing the story? Because I think a lot of people would probably I'd rather people just kind of understood the story. Like
I think as well that it's not this. There's elements of the people it's based on their lives, but it's not a biographical. As I understand, so you don't necessarily need there is a documentary on the people it was based on, which I've not seen, so I don't. That'll have more info, but I think it doesn't necessarily need the same people. But from the point of view of someone from the community, in the story, I think that would be ideal. But I think a movie that's been written and casted in the early 90s, or to what Ben was saying about the Tom Hanks film, I don't think that would be really possible, just because being gay and being trans was still such a fringe thing that people wouldn't even necessarily want to admit to. I've forgotten which actor it was. It might have been Jason Donovan, who was asked to be in the film, but then said no because he was like worried people would think that he was gay if he played these characters. Like it was still a time when people who were who were professional actors still felt like they had to hide, and they may have been from communities where it might not even been safe for them to out themselves in this international manner and then try and go back to their lives, risk in a film that might have been seen a bit more fringe, because the second it's like, oh, we've got these gay guys and this trans woman playing these gay guys and trans, then it's suddenly seen like a very like insular thing for the LGBT community. I think having actors who, I don't know how well known they necessarily would have been, but I know that Guy Pearce was on Neighbours before he was like in other things, so he would have been well known because he was on obviously a daytime soap at the time. I think having these actors play, it kind of helps bring it into a lens where it's like, look, this is for everybody. You don't have to be of this community to consume this content. I think nowadays, I don't think we would need to have the same conversation, because I think most people would recognize, like, yeah, you don't have to be from that community to consume content about that community. And, you know, it's about people's lives. It's not about, you know, the details of kind of the whatever their sex lives are. Like, there's not any romance or anything like that in the film. It's literally just, here are some people's lives and this is their story about what's happening to them. But yeah, I think if the film was to be remade, I'd really like to see people from that community being put in the spotlight. But I think of its time, I don't even think it would be possible. Even if it was greenlit, it would be so much more of a very small, quirky indie production. I don't think it would have been able to be on the international stage the same way. Like, the film won Oscar for best costume design, and when we were watching it, Ronnie was like, "Oh, look up some trivia," and I literally like looked at 3 different points. But one of the things that I read was that it won Oscar for best costume design, and there hasn't been another film set in contemporary times to win best costume design since that film. And I'm like, that's pretty impressive. That, like, I wonder if it was kind of more of a, oh, the LGBTQ plus community in Australia made this film, would it have been like, would it have access to all the same accolades and kind of applause and Golden Globes and Oscars and this and that the film did get? Which is really sad, but I'm not sure it maybe could have got the same respect it deserves.
Yeah, I think it's just interesting that they were going to have those individuals, but play in the actual film, and then obviously change their minds. Which is interesting that it kind of came up as a first thought, and I just thought I'd raise it to see what people thought. But yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting.
I do think it's really cool though that the real life Mitzi was the person in the credits, and I love I love that they chose for the song to be "I Saved the Best Till Last." I thought that was awesome. That was a really good choice.
Yeah. Vanessa Williams singing it randomly enough.
I think me and Ben have talked about this before, about we were talking about Philadelphia and probably other movies too, because this has come up where I think end of the day, considering like what kind of projects you're going for me especially, like, skill of acting has a huge impact on like how a story resonates, is like in terms of like authenticity. But on that same vein of thought, it does kind of like rub me the wrong way to think of like you're telling a story about like marginalized people like discriminated against people, and then like who are you getting to tell that story? You know, the people that have the privilege, like they don't have the lived experience of that marginalized life. And so I think, you know, I like, it would be cool if they had skilled, talented actors with the lived experience of their characters to do that job. But if that's not the case, I think second best would be to, like, if they don't have that lived experience, to be like do like their due diligence in research and like talking to people with that lived experience. And that goes like all levels, like not just the actors, you know, like direction and story writing and all that stuff, just to have like do their best to have to be coming from an authentic place where people, if you want your story to resonate and tell that like it's something that's close to the truth, you know, I think for them to partner with people who have that experience and life. That's just the one thing that is important to me. Like when I hear about projects like Prey, you know, it was like focused, like they really wanted to, and that was focusing like on indigenous culture, right? Partly, and it's just like it was important to them to get like the culture right and work with the culture that they're trying to depict, right? And so it's things like that that are important to me. Like I know that like not everybody is an actor, and that's fine. And if you're not doing a documentary and you're doing something that's like, you know, more like a dramatic storytelling, yeah, get the people for the job, but like do your research, basically.
I think the research part is I think that's what kind of makes the difference. Even nowadays, where if you're going to do a film that's about a specific group of people that aren't the kind of mainstream and they do belong to whatever marginalized or kind of discriminated against community, I think having adequate research and kind of handling it in a really respectful manner is key at the end of the day. Like I think with some films, and there are definitely times when I think it would make more sense to have somebody of that community in that role. I think, yeah, at the end of the day, the research is so important. And to that note about Priscilla, what Corey was just saying about Indigenous people, what I liked in Priscilla was that not only do they have, they obviously drive through Aboriginal territories at one point, or for a lot of it, but they meet Aboriginal people and they immerse themselves in each other's culture. And then I like at the end, when they're doing the finally performance, that the background is like Aboriginal art inspired. And I haven't looked into it, but I like to think that like the people that they had in the film kind of had some amount of, this is what our art looks like, or this is what our instruments are, or do you know what I mean? Like I think especially because Australia gets a bad rap for being quite racist towards the Indigenous people, which, as I understand, is deserved. But I like that this film kind of embraces. It doesn't. It's not about them, and it's not like a major point of the film, but it does like acknowledge them, which I think is really, really nice. And I hope that was done in a respectful manner, which I like to think it was, because it seems like it was. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I really liked the bit where they're performing to him around the campfire, and then like, so they're cool, they're kind of like styles of music just sort of like blend together. Like you could accuse it of being a bit on the nose, but I thought it was a really sweet way to sort of show them sort of coming together as one. I thought that was really cool.
no, I agree.
Yeah.
Every single time I hear that song, I was telling Emmanuel, like every single time I hear "I Will Survive," I literally like in my head hear the Aboriginal, like the chanting and the drumming, like in the background. I think it works perfectly together.
Yeah.
what's
Some
that
people
instrument
apparently did.
called? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, what was that? Is the instrument that long one? Is it like
Didgeridoo, I think.
yeah?
It's a bloody didgeridoo, yeah.
Yeah, goddamn didgeridoos.
Yeah.
No, some people did apparently quite kick off about that, and kind of like Rob said, kind of it being on the nose, and kind of
That's a
people weren't happy
didgeridoo.
with that. Yeah, pretty much. But I think it kind of highlights the idea of kind of two communities that maybe do experience that kind of like marginalization, kind of seeking comfort and acceptance, and kind of, I guess, tolerance, like within amongst each other as well. I thought that was quite a nice purpose of it, regardless of, I don't know, in terms of, can't comment. I'm not educated enough to talk about the kind of the you know, the instruments and kind of the history and all that kind of stuff. But I think in terms of just as a message of two kind of communities kind of coming together, I think that was really nice to see as well.
Yeah.
I think it was just good at depicting culture in general, because like Australian culture, I think, is also quite well depicted. They're just like I think including the bits that aren't quite so nice, and like you do have people very spread out in rural areas, and you do have people who like aren't accepting of it. But that bit where that lady comes up and she starts like just telling them that they're not welcome there and all that, and then Bernadette comes out with like my favourite line of the whole thing, which is like, "Listen here, you mullet." When you go and light your tampon and blow your box apart, 'cause that's the only bang you're ever gonna get, sweetheart. And all the Australians will fucking piss themselves laughing, and then that's it. They're all just mates in the pub, and I'm like, yes, that is
I think-
exactly it.
I think that character's
has
interesting.
like my favourite lines in this whole film. Sorry, go on, Rachel.
Yeah, I think the character Shell, I think her name was Shell. Was it Shell? Yeah, was really interesting in a sense because I guess like in a way she's kind of depicted to be kind of maybe more kind of like Mask, for example, and obviously with the mullet and so on. But then she still kind of comes out, I guess, with as like this, I don't know, like bigotry, kind of like that she feels as representative of the community or the people in kind of the pub or whatever venue that they're in. But it's interesting that you kind of the way they depicted her almost suggests that maybe she's got her own kind of like challenges in a way. Maybe doesn't feel kind of fully accepted herself, but therefore has taken on this kind of I don't know, like hatred, mantle of hatred, or being this mouthpiece. Yeah, I thought the kind of the representation of her was quite interesting in terms of like the different representations of I don't know gender women throughout the film. I think her then kind of portrayal, depiction, or costume or whatever, and then kind of the the kind of role that she played, I thought was kind of fascinating in a way because technically, I guess if she I don't know. I guess they were alluding to the fact that maybe she was lesbian, in terms of kind of being Mask, and I think it was interesting to kind of see her choose to be full of hatred, I guess, for the three of them, and kind of choose to keep herself kind of safe within that community rather than kind of welcome them or maybe be kind of show I don't know alignment or kind of acceptance as well. So I thought that was an interesting kind of character.
It's sort of like I just put this together right now. It's sort of like Lord Farquaad, isn't it? Because you have someone who's insecure about the role that they have in their sort of area, and so they lash out at people who they perceive as someone they can make an easy enemy out of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, kind of turning on them rather than accepting them to save themselves. I guess self-preservation.
I don't think I'd have put that together without you saying that. Thanks.
Any more thoughts, or should we do favourite scene?
Oh, I did just do my favourite scene, so maybe that's a good preamble.
Well, sorry, go on. I don't know who I just spoke over then.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah. I could say I'll have to think of a second one maybe because Rob mentioned, and I agree. I could see the criticism of it being on the nose, but considering it's where they all party together with the indigenous people, and then they get in their get-ups and take their turn, but it was just like so. I really needed that heartwarming, uplifting moment because what happened just previously to it when I thought that they were going to get saved, I thought those people were going to help them, and then they see Tick in his get up, or I think, or so she was Mitzi at that point. And then Adam with his like painted boobs on and just like gun out of there. I was just like, no, I was so disappointed. So to like come off of that and then see them like meet people and have a good time with them, and even one of them, the guy that found them, to join in and like get all dressed up, and he was like so into it and just having the time of his life. I just thought that was wonderful. I really loved that part. But yeah, I'll keep it at that for now, but I have a couple more if nobody else touches on them later.
That's one of my favorite scenes as well.
I was so worried in that scene because I was like, they were so lucky to find anyone, and like the comedic timing on it was like, oh, that's so funny, but it's also like, how the fuck are they gonna get?
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as they drove off the main road, I was just like, no. Do you not know Australia? Obviously, these are city folks.
I mean, they will know.
Except Bernice. Bernice is the only one who was heavily kind of like, because obviously she has experience. But the other two is just like, yeah, that's not a good idea. Even I was just like, I've never lived there, but I don't think that's a good idea. Not in the for many other reasons. I didn't think the thing was going to break down in quite the same way. But to be honest, it's not surprising. Also, as a random aside, I call Chance's character Bernice for a reason, just to because my mom's name.
Yeah, his mum is Bernadette.
And it just helps my mind not just like mix up stuff. I was like, I'll call Bernice like one of her nicknames.
Oh, I just assumed it was another Terry Crews moment and just went with it. I was like, it's on theme for today.
That's going to be the thing now. It's Emmanuel's Terry Crews mom.
They do call her that in the film, though.
Yeah.
What, Terry Crews?
No, Bernie.
Bernice.
Oh man. But while I'm talking,
Oh no.
two of my favorite. I don't know. It's related to the film.
Oh, okay, cool.
Two of my favorite kind of like just trivia so far. I didn't even notice that in the film, a lot of the times in the shots within the bus, the crew were underneath blankets and stuff. Like some of the crew were underneath blankets doing like whether it be the sound boom or whatever it was because there wasn't enough space.
That's cool. Do you think they used the little department that was used as kind of like a tanning sun thing? What was it called? Well, what's his face? Guy Pearce is getting this like UV lights on him in underside of the car of the truck.
It's kind of wild that they had a tanning bed because
Yeah.
you're in Australia, but wasn't that the era when Australia went really hard on like sun protection because of how high skin cancer rates were? So I'm just like, you live in Australia, why do you need it sun?
I didn't even realize it was a sunbed, honestly, but that makes sense. He was wearing the swimming goggles, or tanning goggles, whatever. But yeah, I found that funny. But yeah, I think they probably heavily use that space to hide in as well. So that's a lot of space in there. Like, oh, I didn't know that was there. And I didn't know the context behind Linda Chamberlain. Chamberlain? Yeah, Linda Chamberlain. I didn't know the context behind that. So it was nice to kind of find that out, like why she was a household name in her story in Australia. And for anyone who hasn't seen the chat yet, her and her husband were falsely accused of like I get neglect for their child dying.
The dingo ate my baby. That person.
I didn't know that was the name of the story, but
no,
yeah,
I heard it said that way in a film. I think Meryl Streep might have played.
Yeah, they did.
That's based on the true story of something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they got accused 8 years later because they were sentenced to death, I think, or they were sentenced. They were jailed and everything, and I think had a pretty severe sentencing. But then more evidence came out that their story was true. That wasn't that they were negligent. The kangaroo whatnot did actually come in, dingo, sorry, and take the baby away. And yeah, not because they weren't trying to look after them, but yeah, because of that story, and I think the Meryl Streep movie would have been before this. Yeah, like she was a household name in Australia, which would have been obviously one of the reasons why the kid knew it so well and probably would have watched the film with his mom.
But also, it was just a massive story.
Yeah,
like it was a huge news story.
It was like international because I heard about it. It was referenced in a Seinfeld episode. Elaine did the dingo ate my baby kind of line.
Like, dingo ate my
Oh.
baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that your
I heard
Australian
it in
accent?
something and
It
then
was
like
my
Googled
stepdad.
later.
Oh.
Yeah, it became a kind of a pop culture thing for all the wrong reasons, sadly.
Yeah.
Quite a grim thing that happened, and everyone kind of took the piss because of like the caricature of dingoes in Australia and stuff. But yeah, that's where it came from. So that's quite an interesting film. I think one of us should do one day, because yeah, that was it's a tough watch, but it just showcased the horrors of what this poor mother had to go through to clear her name and kind of get justice. One of my favourite scenes there's lots of great moments in this film. I think we all can agree that there's always going to be like one line, even if all the jokes don't land, there's always going to be one that really does just really work. But I think most of like the choreography and the performances of where they do the drag routines are really well done. And I think my favourite one is the one where they do Finally, where CC finishes.
Damn you, Ben.
And that's such a good one, just because of how well and how intense the performance is, and how well they all kind of like zone in, and there's certain moments and kind of like so synced up, and the lip syncing is just perfect. It's just I just love that bit. That's my favorite performance part in the film, I think. But I love the little flashbacks and little side parts where the moment where I forget his name, Hugo Weaving finds out he is a father, and you just have this shot of him in all three of them in the hospital. He just gets like the news, and they all react to it in such a like cartoony fantasy way, and then it cuts back to reality. It's just like they're just little touches like that. Well, great, and I would have liked bits like that. I think everyone might know. You know the scene I mean, right? Because it was so fleeting. It was only about like 30 seconds of a shot, and it was it was so clever. Because they're still in drag, and they're in hospital. And it's just good direction there.
Yeah, I also like how, I think you've already said it, but I appreciate it how they show it one way right at the beginning. You don't know what's going on, what this is really a reference to. And then they show it again and tie it to that moment that Bernice kind of passes out kind of thing. And it's just like it was just really cool. It's nice when you like have little things like that. Is bringing something back, a memory that the character is thinking about, kind of thing, but framing it in a different way now that you actually understand what happened or what that was even all about. And I liked how from this way as well, you saw Bernice and everyone walking in with the doctor. It was, yeah, cool. I thought.
My favorite scene is the first time Guy Pearce is on the top of the bus, lip syncing the opera, and there's like the massive train from the costume trailing in the background. And that, like, the first time I saw it, I was like, I'm enjoying this film. Then that happened, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love it. Because, like, the fashion girly in me was just like, this is so cool. Yeah, that's my favorite scene. And then all the musical numbers, and then all the choreography that I learned as a result of watching the film too many times. But yeah, this shoe scene is my favorite, hands down. The first shoe scene specifically.
Yeah, that was epic. That put a big smile on my face. I was just like, wow, they really went all out with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben took my favourite scene, but I'm still going to say it anyway because I think it deserves two discussions. I just thought I think the Finally performance, which is such a tune, it's so good. just was like the epitome of like everything about that's amazing about drag. Just the routine, the lip syncing, the costumes, going from like ostrich to dragon, and then like putting the arms up, and then the like fans and the wings kind of coming out behind, and just like it's just the creativity I absolutely love. And I'm always in awe whenever we watch Drag Race, and I was like, wow, the fact that like people are so talented and like I don't know, are just able to be so creative and probably dealing with so much kind of other shit, like just in a day to day, but they can come and really like when they're on stage and they're kind of in a persona or their drag queen, kind of they're being their drag queen. I just think it's so incredible to see what people can do and kind of the energy that people will bring to to perform and kind of share that kind of talent with people. And I just think the kind of I didn't expect them to do the full song, and so I think the fact that they did the full song, managed to do a slide down a high-heeled shoe, and all the costume changes, I just thought it was epic. I thought we'd maybe get like a verse and a half, and then they'd like cut the scene. But I'm glad that like whoever directed it, I guess, committed to the full performance because that was everything. And then I did also like the scene where they did climb the mountain in their drag gear and then got to the top and I'm like, yeah, okay. We're done.
That was good.
But like
They could have ended the film like that.
So again?
Yeah.
The film could have ended like that. But I'm obviously glad that they didn't, because the final scene was still important, very important for the characters.
Yeah.
But it just was like cinematically just such a good way to end it.
Yeah, it was epic. And I think the final scene was really quite special. I mean, the ABBA performance, and then obviously with Benji doing the light. I think it was really nice that he was doing the lighting, because it's almost like, I'm spotlighting, I'm putting the light on my dad. I'm not ashamed of my dad. I want everyone to see him. I thought they could have had him kind of doing anything, but I thought it was a really interesting choice to kind of have him, on the lighting and kind of, showing off his dad to the room and feeling really proud of that as well. So the performance numbers, which were always going to be my favourite, but they definitely were.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll go
back to. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go on. No, you go first.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like I noticed that was a callback to the scene where Hugo Weaving figures out that his son is completely on board, and his son wanted to see that ABBA act, so it's like that's that ABBA song, right? The Mamma Mia one.
Yeah.
It's
like the ABBA song.
Here we go again.
Yeah. I think I've convinced Rob that we can watch Mamma Mia soon. It might be my next pick.
So
is that as close as Rob is going to allow Mamma Mia to be picked? It's just like
to be fair, he did go and see ABBA Voyage with his mum earlier this week, so he's pretty much all ready. He's ready.
I was never against watching Mamma Mia. I just didn't want it on my pick list. That was the only thing I was against.
Brace yourself.
Well, you guys know what to do.
But now that scene where they're doing finally, it really reminded me of when we first watched RuPaul's Drag Race, because I think it was on Netflix or whatever, and Rachel was like, "Oh, do you want to watch it?" And I was like, "No." and then I watched an episode, and I was like, "Oh, this is wrestling. Like this, they're just like putting a character on, making costumes. Like that's awesome." And like it was the bit with the kind of like the neck of the lizard. That was what I think that reminded me of when I watched it, and I went, "Oh, okay, I think I understand this as an art form now." Like
I'm gonna share the tidying closet that routine that they did in the groups on the chat, because the best thing ever.
Yeah, this nearly killed me.
Tidying closet is fucking awesome.
I loved it so much.
What I was gonna say before was the scene when they're hiking. When we were watching it, Emmanuel had a call back to Insomnia, because he was like, they have the appropriate shoes on for what they're doing, and I felt like that just needed to be shared with the group.
That's perfect.
That moment will never die. They have the right shoes on. We need to acknowledge it.
So like
plus
10 for enjoyment.
Yeah, there's a callback to Seven as well, to be fair, because they also commuted in the best way they could.
Yeah. That bloody school bus served them well.
Wait, to Seven? What did you say?
Yeah, because one of your issues with Seven was the way that he was commuting to work.
Oh, it was my main issue was I thought the character was a dick about all of it, like making his wife move down to basically the ghetto and put her at risk when they actually lived in a a good neighborhood before. It is just like you should have just commuted in. I think that was my problem. It's like, why are you putting your wife through this as well? Like, she don't need to be going through this.
Uh, I mean, like, if you want to say it that way, you like could have said, "Oh, might as well just take a plane over to like this place." There'll be no adventure. It'll just be quick ferry. It'll be like there's like a certain element there, Emmanuel.
I can't wait. Wait, what? I can't. I don't think I can hear you properly. It's an element.
Yeah, there's like there's a certain
Whoa.
element of like the story there, because like if you imagine if you said, "Oh, do you want to take Priscilla across to the desert and just like go there, or we can like commute there via plane?" It's a big difference.
Oh no, sorry. This is completely separate. Rob was bringing up. Like I wasn't thinking about anything in Seven at all related to this film. Plus, a lot of people travel from New Jersey to New York all the time. I have no problem with the travel in this film.
I mean, they do say we should have flown.
They should have commuted.
Oh, I mean, they could have, but it was an adventure, and it was all part of also what like Adam's. I think, yeah, Adam's dream. He wanted to kind of do that as well as
Yeah.
go up on that kind of mountains in the dresses and frock with the appropriate shoes. Like he that was part of his dream and the whole trip. I thought that was the point of it. It was to really make a trip of it rather than because they did not do it in a cheap way. Like he was trying to get him just to get some kind of mode of transport or rent something, and he bought a $10,000 bus.
But his mum gave him the money for it specifically.
And
Yeah.
it's just like, what? Like they weren't looking to spend more money than a plane tickets to do all of this. It was just more of the, oh, let's go on a road trip. Like it's not often like it's a big thing. I mean, it is a big thing to go across just the middle of Australia, the outback. There's many different races that are done. Solar car races as well, like almost every year, which are crazy because the risk that they put themselves at going through the center of Australia with no real weight to their vehicles and just getting blown off the road. But it's just like I think seeing other stuff made me think even more so, like Bernice was probably saying, this is not a good idea. Are you sure you want to go off the main road here? But that just made it more funny. I didn't think of it as like a cuss or anything. But since I am talking, I'll say my favorite scene. Um, my favorite scene is like kind of split in two parts, but it's basically when the kite goes up, and I'm just like, wait, what's happening? And then it is so kind of like not over the top, but just a little bit. It's made like a show of it, and like the music goes well. The use of music in the soundtrack in the film was really good. Even the incidental music, when Adam was being chased, Mitzi was being wait, what was Adam's? Felicia was being chased. Um, like it had the music had the sound of knives in it. But anyway, yeah, the scene where the kite goes up, you see all their faces and it goes up to the blow up doll kite thing, and it's just like what? Man, that is definitely something. And then like the second part to that scene, in a way of it falling back into some like foreign country. It's just again, it doesn't have to make that much sense, but it's just like, you know what? This is great. It's funny. It's like what the crap? Like what? Just for the fun of it, and it encapsulates a lot of feelings in the film itself. I think just yeah, I think that was my favorite parts.
It's a very good part. It's just because it's so unexpected, that last scene when it like, as we've talked about it already, when the kite lands,
Yeah,
the post credits scene.
I mean, even the just the start of the kite scene was very unexpected. Like you see the thing separately in the background at one point before that point, but I didn't imagine
Yeah, you don't know what the payoff's going to be.
they were gonna put that together and make and just have this flying kite in such a way. To be honest, yeah, it's just funny.
Nice. Pat and Simon left.
Like, not sure if it's my favorite scenes or stuff. Actually, this is not a scene that it's a favorite scene. It's actually just a scene I'm just ever slightly confused on. Are there just people who run around in like the desert in the outback? Because it's like,
you missed it. You missed
It's
it.
for charity.
It was for charity, and it might have even been like a world record or something. Like, but yeah, for charity. At the beginning of the film, they were celebrating her embarking this milestone, which, like, anyone who's done that in real life, mad props. That would have been freaking crazy. It will still be freaking crazy today.
oh wait, was that the same lady that was getting like out cheered by them when they christened Priscilla?
Yes.
Yeah.
With the
Yes,
okay.
which is why it's a reoccurring joke. They kept passing her. They didn't realize, like, oh, who are you? Like, oh, she's rude.
I think we saw
probably
her like we saw her once before, and then after we see her again, it's like they're like, oh hi, and when she runs off, and she's like, oh what a rude bitch. It's like, oh I see. Okay, I didn't realize that. That explains a lot. Okay, that
actually was
explains
my
it.
favourite
Okay.
scene. That was because there's a nice little subtle bit in that. So it's the bit before they go to the camp with the natives. So when the guy sort of like makes them jump when they're doing their routine, and he says, "Oh, it's a lovely night for it," or something like that, and then they go to the camp, and then later on when they see her going through the desert, and then Hugo Weaving's character says, "Oh, it's a lovely day for it," and I thought, well, that's a nice callback to that, and like it's a nice little thing that he's taken from them.
Nice snap for it.
Yeah. Also, since you mentioned Mitzi, I didn't know Tim Curry like could have played the role, but he turned it down.
Tim Curry would have been great.
And then Hugo Weaving said yes. So we could have had Tim Curry in the role, which makes sense.
Wait, Tim Curry is who?
As Hugo Weaving's character, Mitzi. It would have been very different, but
Yeah, but Tim Curry is interesting because he got you know, you have Rocky Horror Show, and that's like I don't know if it'll be slightly different. It'll be like that would
I'm not mad.
I'm glad Hugo Weaving got it. I'm glad. I like him, so he did such a great job. I'm happy with that. But,
yeah.
I like that it was another Australian. I think that was good.
Yeah. And I like that with Hugo Weaving or all the main characters. I don't think it was expected that those three would be playing these roles. Whereas if it was, and I think that was really nice. Whereas if it was Tim Curry as Mitzi, even though I'm sure he would have done fine in his own way, it wouldn't have been surprising.
Yeah, because everyone saw Rocky Horror 20 years before. Or however, I don't know how long ago.
Yeah, I feel like Tim Curry's like the most obvious choice.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did Rocky Horror come out? 80s?
I think so.
I thought it was the late 70s.
But what,
Oh yeah, 70. No wait, 75.
ah,
Yeah,
75.
wow, it was 20 years before.
man.
Good guess.
Yeah, 5 years before Terrence Stamp was Zod in Superman 2. It's just no, because especially with Hugo Weaving, right? It's just like when I first saw him in the drag, I was like, oh, Agent Smith was just a bit. Oh, must be like a small glitch in the program. Agent Smith looks a bit odd, but it's like okay, but it's just like you seeing them in drag is like, oh yeah, it makes sense. It's just like actually it goes back to my favorite scene is the Terrence Stamp. It's not even a favorite scene. It's just my favorite line. It's so goddamn absurd. I just can't believe it was said out loud. It's when he was talking to Adam because Adam was checking out the dresses that he was wearing. And I was like, oh, what's this? He goes, oh, that's my most precious treasure. And I was like, and he goes on to the story and he goes, I just couldn't imagine him saying, so is this an absurd? Just the phrase, is this an absurd? It's just like, just hearing that being said out loud, he just made me crack up so fucking much. I can't believe it was like, it's the most basic sort of potty humor, but it's because he said it with such a serious face, it just broke me comedically, and it was just like, damn. This is way funnier than it should be, but it's like, yeah, this is funny. This is actually quite funny, and I just couldn't help it. I know it's a bit basic potty humor, Rory, but it's quite funny potty humor.
Absolute nadir of the film.
And then he wears it around his neck. That was so disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So gross.
Yeah.
Could have done without that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was also very disgusted. I was just like, oh yeah, I forgot there are like people like that still do that kind of stuff to this day. It just reminds me of stories I've heard.
It's like a handkerchief or something. But I feel like taking it to that level, I don't think I've heard of that level of fandom to that extent. That's just
so
disgusting.
Quite a common one. So extreme stalkers, you have them, of course, everywhere.
I mean, I feel like it's definitely a K-pop fan thing.
No. They just have a specific name for them. It happens everywhere, but it's really big over there for different reasons. But as they're called, sasangs, extreme kind of K-pop stalkers, basically. There's often stories of people who will even steal their pee or get into situations where they can do that and keep it jarred and stuff. Yeah, stuff like that.
Simon, why did you start this tangent off? What did
I didn't start the tangent. I just started.
Did.
No. He started the tangent. I don't force him to start the tangent. He started the tangent. We could have moved on to Pat. You know, it's
you didn't have to bring this up. You didn't have to bring up the
I brought up Zod first. So, you know, we didn't start on the Superman tangent. So it's like, you know, it depends.
God.
Simon, wasn't Pooh part of your favorite scene? That was part of your favorite scene.
I didn't start the tangent. That's not how that works. If you want to talk about tangents, do you want to talk about Bob's wife being the lady from Power Rangers?
Yes, let's do that. That's preferable.
Yeah, that's she's she's Rita Repulsa from Power Rangers. This is her debut in the film,
Oh
but
yeah.
she
I forgot about that.
she's in like the 1985 Power Rangers movie, when the one that was on like VHS when I was a kid, and I was like, oh yeah, it's the same lady, because
I
they
mean,
used to take
it did repulse me. So
what Rita Repulsa, yeah.
Rita Repulsa, yeah.
Yeah, with a high crackly voice.
There was a Power Rangers movie from 1985. You said?
Oh, what, did you say 85 or did you say? Oh, sorry, 95. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah. It wasn't that early.
Yeah.
Because I watched the show, but I didn't know about.
Yeah, because early Power Rangers films just used the same stock footage from Japan, and they just redubbed over it until they went, oh, actually no, because like the actress retired, so they had to go, oh, let's just replace her with someone who looks somewhat similar, or you have to just redub her. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, that's Rita. That's Rita Repulsa from the Power Rangers movie. That I think we've all watched, maybe.
No, I don't have any interest in Power Rangers. I never did.
You never did?
Oh, I might have watched a tiny bit of it, but I think what Power Rangers did, whenever I would see a small bit of it, it would make me just go and watch a martial arts film. Because I would see what was going on, and then I'd turn off Power Rangers to watch, like, I don't know, Jet Li or Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee or something, like something else.
I was too young to consider even that. I just
Oh,
saw
yeah.
them. Others.
I mean, like,
Oh, go on.
oh no, I was gonna say, as cool as martial arts films, I don't think any of those actors had Megazords. That's a very important part of the law.
Key change.
I loved Power Rangers so much as a kid that I used to go to the park and jump up slides and jump off them. Unfortunately, one time I jumped off and landed on my wrist and broke it.
Damn!
Because I was a Green Ranger.
I thought you guys, as you broke your wrist, you try and get up and go, oh, it's morphin time! It's just like, yeah, terrible.
Yeah, I had what they called a green stick fracture, so I'd broken the bone, or fractured a bone here and then fractured one here.
Oh, fucking hell.
Leave it hanging like this still. And that's the position.
Yikes. Pat, did you see a favorite scene?
Oh man, there's a few. But it probably one that I laughed the most at was one that Alec mentioned earlier, in the bar when the woman was sort of like was telling them to get out, that they weren't serving them. That I was sat on the train when that happened. I think I was coming up to Hove when that scene played, and I was crying. That was such a good scene. Another one was when Terrence Stamp's character, I think, went off to try and get help after Priscilla broke down. I think, and she came back with help, and then the bloke in the car saw who he was going to be helping. He's like, "Nah, fuck this," and drove off. It's in context of like the genre of the film, it was quite funny, but it's also a shame the way people thought at the time and still do, that they'd see someone different and be like, "No, I'm not helping these." So they're probably two scenes that stood out.
What I find really funny about that scene is when Terrence Stamp is in the car and there's like a dead, I can't remember what animal it is that he's
Kangaroo.
next to.
Yeah.
And it's just like, He is so disgusted, and I'm like, oh, I feel so sorry for you that this is like what you've had to do to try and get help. I think it's probably for the best that those people drove off, because I don't think any of them could have standed being in that car next to some dead, like,
Kangaroo.
Yeah.
degrading animal.
They were all covered in flies.
Yeah,
Ugh.
it's horrible.
Yeah, that would have smelled so bad.
That too.
But it would have tasted delicious.
Ew.
Yeah, after being cleaned and but and cooked, but
In that heat, though, it's not even covered, so it's yeah.
Been to Australia more recently than anyone else here.
Did you eat kangaroo?
Yeah.
Was it spit roasted, like like on the barbie, or did you have it with like garlic aioli? What was it like?
Garlic aioli. I don't think it's a garlic aioli kind of meat. I feel like.
I mean, I don't know. It was the first thing that popped into my mind. I was like, oh no, is it tasty? I don't know. I haven't tried kangaroo.
It tastes sort of like venison.
Oh, okay. I've actually had venison. Yeah, it's not too bad.
I've never had venison, so.
Oh, it tastes sort of like kangaroo.
Oh. I think you can actually possibly get venison. I don't know if they still sell it. At one point, it only makes sense for people in the UK, but Iceland sold, I think at one point, not only venison, but kangaroo meat.
What?
Yes. Not kidding. This was probably like
Is this a partnership with I'm a Celeb?
I don't know. It's just like
Yeah, it was just
maybe
the balls.
10 years ago, I remember going to Iceland, looking in the meat section, like next to the beef, and I saw kangaroo, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
I was so confused. And yeah, I think they have venison as well. But yeah, that I don't know about now.
Is venison deer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've had moose.
What
Oh
does
wow.
moose
Okay.
taste like?
Yeah.
You mean the dessert?
Yeah. Very smooth, very velvety. Yes. Very. Yeah.
It's very good. It's very lean, so you often have to mix it with something else. But to me, it's delicious.
Fuck yeah. I want to have moose.
Can you get it in restaurants in Canada, or is this like?
I've never had it in a restaurant. No, this is like when I go up north to visit my family.
Was this roadkill?
No,
I'm thinking, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I could try moose the next time I go to Canada, but probably not in the middle of Toronto.
yeah, but it's like, well, I mean, is it something that you hunted yourself? Were you able to get moose?
I didn't hunt it myself, but we get we have family and friends who do go hunting, so that's how we get the moose meat.
That sounds.
That makes more sense. Yeah.
That sounds wild, but that sounds delicious. So I don't know how. I don't know how else to say.
I'd have loved it if you were just like, yeah, and then you're like, you just go like, you don't realise, but I'm actually 10 foot tall. So that's how I've killed this moose. Damn.
On that delicious note, is there any other favorite scenes or any ending thoughts?
I had one more favorite scene. It was just really funny. I thought one of the funnier running jokes was how Mitzi was selling that product line of like woman. And one of my favorite scenes of including that product was when they were in the bar and they turned out to be having a good time. And he's like blitzed drunk and he's going through this spiel and they pan to those two women with like all the product all over their face. And like just like that like but that was a highlight of like, you know, being like authentic, see me acting drunk and like having it come off real is hard to do in my opinion, and he did a fantastic job. He was hilarious.
Oh, most of them were really drunk though.
Oh,
Mm.
He's doing a great job. No, he's shit faced.
Yeah.
really?
But yeah, I think most of them, from what I read, were really drunk or had quite a bit to drink.
Oh.
So I'm sure that helped.
Yeah.
I was wondering if we should, at the end of the call, actually, we could always watch it separately. I don't know how long Rachel's video is. Also, I didn't say good night before she went off. You could say good night for us, Rob.
2 parts.
But I don't know if you wanted to play the video, Rob. Like share a screen at the end. But we could always watch it like separately.
I don't know how to do it on Discord, but if you know how to do it, we can do it.
Yeah.
Wait, what are you talking about?
What's up?
Share what?
I think
Rachel
Emmanuel's gonna
posted,
play. Rachel shared a. Are you talking about the video, the YouTube video that Rachel shared?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't checked the chat before. Oh, I see. RuPaul's video.
I
I think it's-
having those trivia.
I mean, if it's on like YouTube, I think it's probably easier that you that we click on it individually than share it on the actual recording, because it's gonna be like, oh, it's gonna be flagged for copyright issues. So I think it's probably safer we don't do it that way.
But no, did that.
That's fine. And then we won't be classed as a react video.
That's,
Good.
that,
The infamous reaction. Huh?
So the one that she posted it's the first season that she got me to watch, and this was a moment where I was like, yeah, I'm in, like, because it broke me, man. I found it so funny.
Nice. Yeah. Oh, I'm just reading through some random other stuff. Obviously, I've posted other stuff in the chat that anyone wants to read. But apparently, I didn't know the ping pong ball trick thing was featured in South Park.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. I remember that.
It's Winona Ryder's Winona Ryder's special ping pong ball trick, and then like, yeah, you kind of see all the ping pong balls hitting all the soldiers in the face, and then it cuts back to Winona Ryder, and she's just kind of sitting with her legs akimbo, and she's just she's just hitting ping pong balls with a paddle. She's like, "See, I didn't miss one. That's my ping pong ball trick."
Oh.
Yeah.
Every time the ping pong balls are mentioned, I just notice you, Corey, because you're like, for fuck's sake.
What would you say? You just note for?
I just notice Corey every time that it's mentioned. But no, I must admit,
I didn't know.
Sorry,
I didn't know it existed before this movie.
oh man, when she broke into the cupboard and they all fell out, I was like, oh fuck, they're doing this.
That's bad. That's really bad when you just see like multiple ping pong balls and you go, oh,
Yeah.
oh god.
Don't film me.
Yeah. On a kind of interesting note, me and Camilla were talking about how it was interesting how Bob's character, he while he went into the whole kind of, oh well, I guess she's my wife now, whatever. let's just go back to Australia. I don't know. You want to go? Okay, cool. Kind of thing. He kind of had a sense of protecting her and wanted to maybe protect her from what was being said about her or what things were going around. But yeah, he really obviously he got embarrassed or didn't feel good about her doing all the stuff she was doing. Um, it's quite an interesting one because it was getting us to think about how was she treated back in the Philippines since it's very very heavily Christian, a lot of it. So the amount of discrimination she would have got, like not having to really even step too far out of the area she would have been in and frequented, like maybe Sydney was, or if I mean they weren't in Sydney, but the kind of idea of like Sydney would probably be much more open and much more acceptable compared to where she's come from, but she still would have faced discrimination and maybe other types of discrimination as well that she wouldn't have got where she grew up. So it was a whole kind of interesting thing. Because yeah, I don't know, because I thought it's a kind of hard situation to kind of picture yourself in when I feel like most of us probably wouldn't end up in the situation in the first place. But um
The situation.
oh, about Bob uh, getting tricked into marrying her, and then he's just like, yeah, whatever, let's just go back. Um,
I did
but
love that
I
line though when
think
he was like, when they asked why he took her home, and he was like, "Well, she was my wife."
it's like okay, but I always saw it as a way of like he was quite free spirited. It was more of a kind of like, well, you really want to go? Cool, yeah, it'll be company, whatever. It'll be entertaining. You have fun, whatever kind of thing. Obviously, as Camilla was saying, it did not look like he was having fun. At the point we see them, like he was tired and waiting for her to go, kind of thing. But I feel like I was talking. We was talking about the situation. I was thinking, if I was ever in a similar situation, I think I'd just be like, well, she can do whatever she wants. I mean, we're not married. This is just a sham marriage. It's just a reason to get over here. I'm not really. I wasn't invested. It's like, well, okay, yeah, you could come over, have fun, be cool, fun, talk to, whatever. Um, I did, and this is not a criticism for the film, but actually part of it was, but besides the stereotypical kind of or bad stereotypical portrayal of his wife, I thought it would have been cool if and even more kind of maybe a different type of comedy, but if he also knew Tagalog and when she starts cussing him, he then starts cussing her back, and they get into this heated like cussing match back and forth. And then suddenly, and the other people are just like, "What? What are they talking about?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, don't mind her. She just thinks you're cool people. Really, really great." And then she's still cussing him. He's like blocking her out. I thought that would have added another layer onto it, which I thought would have been cool. Um, but yeah, that was just my thoughts.
And then when she goes, I don't like you anyway. You have a little ding at me. It's really funny.
Oh yeah. The oh, let me bring it up because
Oh yeah, the
I
little dingaling.
no, not that, but she had some cusses that she said to him in Tagalog. So like I think during the so some of the lines, I'm not gonna say them in like chronological order or whatnot, but some of the things she was saying was like, "Don't you dare embarrass me." Your mother's a whore. Uh, again, don't embarrass me. Why are you like that? And oh my, men are really like that. That's kind of like the main standout thing she said. Talking about a lot, basically. But yeah, the fact she just like just cuts her. Yeah, your mom's a whore. Just like this kind of stuff she was just saying. But yeah, and that costume,
Which costume?
with the in the ping pong scene was her own.
Oh.
She provided her own outfit. She had that from before.
What a woman.
It's like they were doing this scene and she was like, "Oh, I've got just the thing for this."
It's like even with the zip and everything, it's just like
Yeah.
okay.
Wait a minute. Does that mean that she really does that?
Maybe not specifically that.
Yeah.
Could you imagine doing a casting call for that and you go like, fucking hell, you're perfect, you even come with your own costume.
That's some very different casting call. If that was the case. Oh man. I feel like there's been like I can't if I ever remember what movie it is or if someone else knows. Like I feel like there was some other casting call, completely different film, where someone like really got into the character and then they started like barking like a dog or some kind of outlandish thing like that. And they was just like, "You've got the part." Like
Coming to America.
possibly. I don't remember what film it was, but it was something like
Yeah, I don't know what it is either, but that sounds familiar.
yeah. Good.
Right. What are we thinking? Are we done there? Do we take the time to explain the awards?
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you want to go through nominations first? Because Rob, Corey, Rachel, and Simon still haven't nominated anything for last round, which means that they will not be eligible for awards if they're not nominated.